Okay, everybody, it looks like we have our Councilmember Kennedy back, and we are ready when you are, Madam Chair.
The Seldovia City Council celebrating at 1:35.
Good. All right.
Okay, meeting is called to order. And the topics of discussion today are overall council training presentation and number 2, best practice presentation. Heidi, do you want to
Sure.
start it, or one of these ladies?
Yeah, so just so everybody is aware, because I know we're kind of split between Zoom and the room here, but we do have a few of our council members present on Zoom. We have Councilmember Kennedy, Councilmember Spick, City Manager Rachel, and our mayor unfortunately was not able to be here, but we'll be able to view the video later along with a few other of our council members. And with us, we have Melody and Trisha, and they'll introduce themselves a little bit more, but they came down from Anchorage. They're our local government specialists with DCRA.
Hi, everyone. I got to meet some of you on Monday at the meeting, but my name is Trisha Sullivan. I am Soldovia's local government specialist. I've been with DCRA since June, so I am a newbie. I have just a little short history of myself. I have a bachelor's of music education, a master's of arts and teaching, and then I decided to kind of look into the legal field, where I became a law office assistant, then jumped up to becoming a paralegal. And then when I decided I wanted to help people instead of giving them bad news, I found DCRA, and it has been such an amazing experience so far.
And hello, I am Melody Nybeck. I'm also a local government specialist with the state of Alaska in the supervisory capacity. Prior to becoming a supervisor, I was in our Dillingham field office for a number of years and just moved from a small rural community to Anchorage last year. So spent a number of years in the Dillingham region working with small rural communities, coastal communities. So pleasure to be back in a small rural community on the coast. So yeah, looking forward to the training, and I'm here in support for Trisha, who is in a training development capacity. So
as soon as you guys see a 2 go to a 3, I am officially out of training. So what we've done, since we know that some of you are new as council members, is we have put together our basic council training. Normally this training would take a week. It's called an elected official training. We do offer that in Anchorage and sometimes online. I will let you guys know when we have those classes coming up. Our last class right now for the season is clerks management in December. But what we do is we kind of take everything that we're going to go over today and expand it. So if you guys are interested in attending that, I will let you guys know when it's coming up, and then you just apply online and you're good to go. But we're going to go over first. As it says, a little bit of overview. So again, we are with DCRA. The first section we're going to go over is Government 101. Second is Council Roles and Responsibilities. The third is Ethics and Conflict of Interest. And then the fourth is Meetings. So Article 10, Section 14, an agency shall be established by law in the executive branch of state government to advise and assist local governments. It shall review their activities, collect and publish local government information, and perform other duties prescribed by law. That is what DCRA is. If you ever have any questions, that is the section to find out what exactly we do. Yeah. So DCCED's mission to promote a healthy economy, strong communities, and protect consumers in Alaska. We also help Alaska communities build sustainable economies and means of self-governance. I deleted all of this and it still stayed.
Oh, you did?
I deleted all the transitions and it still stayed. So these are all of the divisions that we have in DCRA. The ones that we mainly deal with as LGS is local government assistance, rural utility business advisors, and some of us do work on the bulk fuel revolving loan program. But if you ever have any questions about any of this, you can just give us a call and we can direct you to which part of our section handles it. So I kind of want to do a little bit of an icebreaker. This way we get to know you a little bit more, and we also you can get to know us. So I will go first. What is your name? My name is Trisha Sullivan. Why did you decide to become a council member? I haven't. How long have you been on the council? Still not on the council. And then what is one thing you would like to get out of today's training? It's connected.
Yeah, looks like we're
We
losing.
are.
Oh, I was picked up. So you said the Seldovia Library one has better?
Yeah. Sorry, everybody, can you still hear us in Zoom?
The audio has been going in and out for me. Do you hear me?
Well,
I think.
I'm working on it.
we're working on it. Give us a minute. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. We had to switch rooms due to construction happening in the building. So bear with us a minute and we'll see if we can get it better.
I think the evening has been exceptionally poor. I've been hearing folks this last couple of weeks.
When we're upstairs, we're normally on Ethernet, so we don't have to worry about it dropping out, but now that we're down here, we're on Wi-Fi.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah, that's been a little bit of a problem lately.
Do you need to be promoted? Okay.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, so how's the audio now, John? Councilmember Kennedy?
Heidi, it's still in and out a little bit, but the bulk of it, I heard most of it there.
Okay,
That okay was okay.
yes,
Yeah, I think it's better.
we'll try to. Okay, if it gets worse again, just let us know and we'll keep working on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let's get this back up and going. Sure. From current slide. Can you guys see the slide?
Yes, I can see it.
All righty. So let's start with who's in the room. Councilmember Sweat, you want to go?
Well, my name is Bobby Sweat. And why did you decide to become a council member? Well, originally I decided I would like to, have some say in the direction that the city at that time was going to go. I'm kind of a don't like change person, but I have realized over the years and being on council that you can't really think that way for a community. So I'm at the end of the line now for me, and I think we've accomplished a lot of good things, and hopefully there'll be more good things to come. I've been on, this is my third term and soon to be my last. And I was never able to go to the original training when I first got started due to family and just different things. So I'm just kind of anxious to get a little better late than never, I guess, a little bit of, see how things are supposed to be really done. So
Thank you so much. Councilmember Kennedy?
Hi there, my name is John Kennedy and I'm relatively new to town, 3.5 years. Been on the council a year. I attended the training last year and just looking forward to see what we can learn today.
All righty. If there's one thing out of this training you want to get, what do you think that would be?
I don't have any idea.
All righty, that works. All right, Councilmember Swick?
Yep. My name is Jennifer Swick. I decided to become a council member to try and make a difference, I guess, and try and bring a different point of view. I worked in the city office for 6 years, so I have that other side of things to see from. How long have you been on the council? It's been a year. What is the one thing you would like to get out of this training? Just kind of a refresher on all the little things, the motions and the point of orders and the Open Meetings Act and all that good stuff, just to kind of refresh on all that. Thanks.
Well, you are in luck. We are definitely going over that today.
If I can interrupt here, how is the sound, the audio now?
The last couple of sentences were a lot better.
Okay.
All righty. Rachel, want to say anything? Rachel, do you want to say anything?
Just thank you so much to the state for providing your time and expertise to Soldovia, and I'm so glad that this is happening, and I hope it's an annual thing.
We can make it that. I would not mind coming down here at least once or twice a year. Just saying. I will bring the sun. I swear, I will bring the sun with me.
We want you down here in February.
We were just talking she said coming back in February and then amended it to maybe March.
Just because of best practices. All right. So we're gonna skip that one. I'd like to do change. Change.
Oh.
There we go. There is a lag between my computer and the screen. So something that I like to do is I like to call on people to participate, because I do hate the sound of my voice, so I don't want to be talking the entire time. So I want to bring in participation from everyone. So if I call on you randomly, I am sorry. So we are going to go over Government 101. So there are 3 levels of government. There is the local, the state, and the federal. So the local is what gives you as elected officials the right to make decisions and take actions. But what exactly gives you the authority? Do you guys know what gives you the authority?
Title 29.
what did you say?
Title.
I think that's a safe answer to the
That is a safe answer. That is a safe answer. Actually, it's the cons.
Oh, it is slow.
It is a little bit slow. Title 29 does, but also the Alaska Constitution. Article 10, local government, provide for maximum local self-government. Cities shall have powers and function conferred by law. And then, of course, Title 29. We, as local government specialists, we do live kind of around, our lives do revolve kind of around Title 29. We also do touch base in Title IV, alcoholic beverages, especially when it comes to local options. Title 15, we get involved with that a lot in October and November. If you guys ever have, as council members, ever have a question about elections, Heidi is a great source of information, but if for some reason you can't reach Heidi, you can give me a call. Then we also do Title 40, which is Public Records Act, and then Title 44, which is the Open Meetings Act. All right, so local government. You get to deal with the people. You have your code of ordinances, your non-code ordinances, resolutions, policies, and procedures. And then Title 29 is a set of state laws that deal directly with municipalities. It is updated annually and organized into title, chapter, and sections. Now, there is a copy online, but what we have done is when we were coming down here, we wanted to make sure that you guys had the most up-to-date copy. So if you do want to see a physical copy of it, Heidi has it organized into title, chapter, and then section, and then of course you have the subsection. So what this one says is a member of the governing body is elected for 3-year term and until a successor qualifies unless a different term not exceeding 4 years is prescribed by home rule charter or ordinance. So some important terms that deal with Title 29. The first one is shall, and then the second one is may. Can anyone tell me the difference between shall and may?
Shall is mandatory, may is optional.
There you go. Shall is
What he said.
shall is mandatory. A city shall do this compared to a city may do this, which is completely optional. You will also see, unless otherwise provided by ordinance, what they have done is they've set out these laws, but they've also provided this unless otherwise provided by ordinance, because if your ordinance says something else, you guys are held to your ordinance. So if you see a Title 29, unless otherwise provided by ordinance, check your ordinances. You'll also see this section applies to, it could say home rule or it could say general law. Like your city, since it is first class city, it would fall under general law. And then, of course, unless otherwise prohibited by law, subject to Alaska, you'll see subject to Alaska statute. And then you'll see a lot like reasonable, significant, and other unclear terms. Like nowhere in the book, in that very fun book, does it define what reasonable means. We laugh at this because it always comes up, nor does it define what significant means. So sometimes you have to use your best judgment, but if you're confused with a term, we most likely will be confused with the term too. So you guys are held to your municipal code, a set of laws specific to the city of Seldovia. These are your foundational and almost amendable, should be amended and updated regularly, should be codified regularly, and a copy of all changes should be in print in your office, and please send it to DCRA.
It's on my list.
Thank you. Heidi is on top of it. Some of our codes, the newest code that we have in one community is from 1998. So, no, actually one is older than I am. So. Now, if you try and scan that fun little QR, it will take you to your city's code. much like Title 29 is organized just like the state statute, title, chapter, section, subsection. Again, it is codified regularly by your municipal clerk, can be found on the internet and in the city office. And we do recommend that all city members have at least an electronic copy.
They actually all have a paper copy
Oh, nice.
and access to the electronic.
Yeah. So searching for topics, there's the index, table of contents. You really want an index and a table of contents because it does save you from tedious flipping. One reason why I love having a physical copy and an electronic copy, the electronic copy, I can do an electronic keyword search, whereas in the physical copy, I can highlight and make pretty and like mark that up with pencil and pen. But I always have both on me at all times. Okay, so pop quiz. Which section in your code discusses meetings of the council?
Open Meetings Act.
So John says the Open Meetings Act. Jennifer, do you have anything? What do you think?
Of our code?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on.
If you scan the little dinosaur looking thing, it will take you to your code online.
See, I was gonna say, I know it's in the beginning of the book.
Yes.
It's, section, Title 2, Section 4,
Or chapter 4.
Chapter 4.
You guys
what
are
was the
cheating.
No, if you use the little dinosaur thing, scan it on your phone, you can pull it up. That's why I did it.
Yeah, I can't get it to work on my phone.
So,
Yeah.
so it works really well with iPhones for some reason. But if you hold it up, hold your camera up. Yeah, come on, there we go.
Oh, you gotta hit camera?
Mhm.
Okay,
And then zoom in on it a little bit. Take your fingers, put them together, and then push them out.
okay.
And then you see how that little sign popped up?
No,
Yeah.
I got it.
Here, let me show you.
If not, you guys should have your binders hopefully available, and if not, we'll carry you throughout. We have a binder here in the room with us.
I got it. Tomorrow, Heidi.
Or you can get on your computer and go to cityofsoldovia.com and send it from there.
There you go. And yes, I created those. I did not know that they were going to come out as a little dinosaur, but I'm not complaining. All right, so answer is Title 2, Chapter 4. Next one. Which section discusses notices of meetings?
Isn't that also towards the front of the book?
So you have the section that you have the chapter that
Oh,
is.
it's in the same one, yeah.
Mhm. For what section? And what subsection? So it's title, chapter, section.
40, 040.
Okay. Actually, it's chapter 2. Section 2, chapter 4, section 065F.
060. Oh, here it is.
Mhm.
Meetings and agendas.
Yep.
That was meetings procedures. Okay.
All right, so municipal acts, we're gonna go over what ordinances and resolutions are. I've gone into communities where they confuse the two, and so they're trying to pass a resolution when it should have been an ordinance. So, We do use Black's Law Dictionary definition and an authoritative law or decree, especially a municipal regulation. Your code, oh my gosh, Title II, Chapter 28 provides for ordinance procedures and requirements. So if you ever have a question on how to do an ordinance, what are the proper procedures and requirements, Title II, Chapter 28. No, it's Chapter 2. No, Chapter 2? Title 2, yeah. Okay, I'm right. I'm going crazy. All right, so there are 3 types of ordinances. You have a code, a non-code, and an emergency. Without looking at the screen, which is impossible, can someone tell me the difference between a code and a non-code?
Well, okay, not looking at the screen.
Not looking at the screen.
The code is something that's like what's written in stone, I guess you would say.
Permanent.
And non-code means it's not there yet.
Kind of. So a code is of a general and permanent nature. That is the one, it lays everything down. In effect over time and will be codified into law. A non-code is something that is not permanent. It's something that's always going to be changing.
Oh, okay,
It is specific to a moment in time and will not be codified into law ever. You do not, I'm going to reiterate this, you do not want to codify a non-code ordinance because then it becomes a code ordinance and that is permanent. And in a second, we're going to talk about the biggest non-code ordinance there. The last one is an emergency ordinance, which is extreme or in unusual circumstances. It can only last 60 days or less. And no public hearing is required.
Heidi, did you guys during COVID enact any emergency?
We did,
ordinances?
we did have it, and then we later had to do non-code ordinances to carry those through, to extend them.
Yeah.
There was a lot of extensions.
This council is pretty well versed on the emergency ordinance, then would you say?
Well, a few of our council members are newer, but some of them, yes.
I will say, broadly speaking, and it's kind of obvious and common sense, but during COVID, most councils, elected, appointed officials became very clear on what an emergency ordinance was. It was. And we did get a lot of calls about it.
So these are examples of the different ordinances. So for code, there is election procedures, provide for levying of taxes, and changing regular meeting times and places. So let's say you guys as a council wanted to change the meetings from I'm guessing it's the first Monday of the month? Or the second Monday of the month. You want to change it to the last Friday of the month. I don't suggest it, but that would be done as a code ordinance because then it would be permanent. Now, a non-code ordinance deals with rezoning, city land sales or lease, and then temporarily altering meeting attendance requirements. So let's say like during the summer, a lot of people are going to be gone. You can do a non-code ordinance and say that we're temporarily altering the meeting attendance. Mm-hmm. Emergencies cannot be used to levy taxes, grant or extend finances, or regulate public utility rates. Now, it's not up there. What is the biggest non-code ordinance that you guys can think of? And Heidi cannot help you.
I was gonna say, okay, Heidi.
Jennifer, did you have an idea?
The mill rate.
That's actually a resolution.
It starts with the
But you're-
B.
You're really close.
It ends with a T.
But
It's about to become a pain in your butt in January. And actually at the end of this meeting. That's true.
But Jennifer hasn't been through it yet.
When do you guys usually start the B cycle?
January.
January.
And it's a little more in-house in January, and then February it goes into the council room.
Oh, budget.
There we go.
I heard starts with a P as in
Oh, no, B.
B.
P as in beautiful.
Budget.
Far from beautiful.
No, yes, a budget is the biggest non-code ordinance that you will probably ever see as a council member, just because you never want to codify your budget. The budget is ever changing, you're amending it. So because it's always flowing and it's always going to be updating and changing, it is a non-code ordinance.
And just for clarification on this screen, the listing of under the code and the non-code is not exhaustive. These are just select examples.
Yeah. No, this is it. This is it. All right. Ordinance adoption. So we have the introduction introduced by a council member, standing committee, or the mayor. Then that leads to the setting of a public hearing, date set for the public hearing, usually next regular meeting. And then that leads to summary posted. A summary is published or posted for public view at least 5 days before the hearing. I did not say reasonable, I said 5 days. Which leads to the public hearing. Proposition considered at a public hearing. Now the public hearing. Copies are made available to all, public, council, everyone gets a copy. You have an opportunity for public testimony. The council acts to reject, adopt, or amend and adopt. And then more copies made and ordinance takes effect. So resolutions, off the top of your head, what is the difference between a resolution and an ordinance? Did I already ask that? I probably did.
Well, the ordinance is what actually is. And the resolution, what?
So the difference, the biggest difference between an ordinance and a resolution. An ordinance is a law, a resolution is just a formal expression of an opinion, intention, or decision by the official body.
So basically what isn't yet, I guess.
Well, it's more of, let's say you guys decide, oh, you guys had a resolution at your last meeting, and that was naming Heidi as temporary manager.
Right.
That does not need to be put into ordinance. It does not need to be anything like that. It's just saying, hey, this is what we're doing. That way the community knows what's going on, the council knows what's going on, and it's just an expression of a intention or a decision.
There was also one for a grant, and you'll see a lot of those. So normally, if you think about a resolution, the way I think about it is there's some keywords normally at the beginning of an authorization, and it's I'm trying to think of it. You're agreeing to, authorizing, opposing, just you're stating an opinion or that you are going to do something.
Okay, so basically the ordinance is, like I said, what it is after, and it's like a law, just like you said. The resolution is something we're doing because it's not going to be law. We're going to probably change it at some point or get rid of it. Because if Heidi is no longer the intern, then that goes away.
It's kind of more like what we're doing right here. It's a conversation between the board and the public.
Okay.
That's what a resolution is.
Accepting a contract.
Yeah.
Accepting, agreement.
Yeah.
Well, accepting is a big one we use.
Yeah. Okay.
It's also a way for bodies to formally communicate between each other. The
And
city
not
might
write
want
their own
to create a resolution to speak officially to the tribal entity in town, or to the legislature, or to Congress. It is a way for bodies to officially communicate with each other too, as an expression of a position or a stand.
And fun fact for you guys, the council did just pass a joint resolution with the Seldovia Village Tribe and the
Okay.
city of Homer for
Okay.
regional priorities. So that was a really great way for all three entities to get
Yeah.
together and have a partnership together.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. I see that a lot in communities, and that's really healthy when the entities are working together. And let me ask you, did all three entities pass a resolution sort of accepting this? Nice.
Okay, good.
Nice. All right. And a resolution, to be very clear, is not permanent. It's not a law.
Right, right.
So codification, you're gonna hear us say codification a lot. So Black's Law Dictionary defines it as compiling, arranging, and systemizing the laws of a given jurisdiction. In layman's term, putting them in your municipal code. So Title 29, Chapter 25, Section 50 requires all code ordinances to be codified after adoption. It is required by the DCRA Community Aid and Assistance section, and it is completed by your municipal clerk regularly. And that is the end of Government 101. Are there any questions and or comments?
I would like to just, real quick here, codification is to be taken seriously, and Heidi's very good at that. We often will see a municipality get into trouble when they're not accessing for part of the clerk's role.
Oh, we know she's doing a fabulous job with that.
I'm gonna add in one thing. You guys have such amazing staff here. And I wanna reiterate this. Just never take them for granted. They are doing such an amazing job. I have been in a community where that's not the case. One of my communities found out that their code has not been updated since 2013, which means I'm gonna end up going down there. Yep, I'm gonna end up going down there and probably spending a week or two just help getting their code up to date, because they just got a brand new clerk and she doesn't really understand what's going on.
Well, they've been working on that the past few years, very, very hard, and
Yes.
yeah, because that was part of our issue a little bit too. That some things just weren't kept up to date, and now we're there, I think.
Yes, so since coming on, just for council's information, I do codify every year. It's on a yearly basis. Normally in August, September at the latest, and then I bring that to you guys as a non-code ordinance for your approval, along with any titles that need to be switched out, or information that's switched out, so that you all have the most up-to-date book. But with that said, after that point, normally it's July this year, we had a few significant ordinances that were approved in July that did make it into the codification this year, but typically the fiscal year is not codified until the end of the year. So any ordinance going through the fiscal year, you can still find online, and those are the most current ordinances. And then because we don't have software that updates it as we go, we do a manual recodification at the end of every fiscal year.
Hey, ladies, I have something to ask you about, because this comes up a few times throughout the year, is the difference between a first-class city and a second-class city.
Yeah, for sure. And it's all derived out of Title 29. We have some cheat sheets that I can maybe pull up here, or we could pull up a little bit. But there's coming to mind, there's a lot of differences, but the first two very major differences between a first-class city and a second-class city relates to the powers and duties. And there's two very specific ones on the top. A first-class city is required to, what with schools, make a local contribution to your school. And you have mandatory planning, platting, and land use duties, powers and duties, if you will. That's not true for a second-class city. A second-class city does not have to make a local contribution to the school, and it may or may not. And here's going back to that one slide, the difference between may and shall. In Title 29, first class city it is based around population and size. And there's also some very distinct differences in the mayoral duties between a first-class city and a second-class city. Second-class city, for example, the mayor is elected by, to, and from the council. And the other distinction, Madam Manager, is the manager plan, right? That's a distinction too. Manager plan can be in a first-class city and second-class cities, but it is something that you guys do need to know, and it should be at the top of your head. Seldovia has a manager form of government, which we might get into in a few slides here. That means all of the executive and administrative functions have been stricken from the mayor and placed into the manager. In a second-class city, where the mayor is elected by the council, all of those executive and administrative functions lie with the mayor.
John, you have your hand up.
Yeah, the audio was in and out again. It's back. Sorry about that, guys.
Oh, no worries. If you guys need to ask a question, please just do the little hand emoji and I am watching, we will get to you. But yes, as Melody said, you do have some communities who they have downgraded from first-class cities to second-class cities just because, like, if they looked at their budget, they couldn't afford to do the planning, platting, and zoning, and they couldn't always continue to do the education. So they just downgraded to a second-class city.
Rachel, there are a lot more. Do you want me to go over each one, or the two big ones really are related to the school contribution? Functions. Did you want me to review them all? I'm happy to.
Oh, I
There
did
are
not hear a lot of that just because the sound was so bad, but it's more just for council. I think that could be great information to maybe share with Heidi, and she could forward it out to the council because that's something that the community does talk about a lot as a budget saving measure. And just to have that information on hand.
Yes. I got a good one-pager cheat sheet that says it all. But for today, there are distinctions between public education that we talked about, property taxes, sales taxes, a few other powers, city council membership, mayoral duties. So the two big ones, I repeat, are the contribution to the school and the mandatory planning powers. So which is why you often see first-class cities actually have a planning department or someone who is dedicated to that. And by the way, here's a bit of trivia. Those for a borough, the same two mandatory functions, school contribution and mandatory planning powers. Very little difference in Title 29 in terms of powers between a first-class city and a borough. Obviously, there's the obvious difference, right, of geography, et cetera, as a region versus a smaller city. But in terms of powers, mandatory duties and responsibilities, very little difference between the boroughs.
Before we move on, am I the only one confused on what is our school contribution? our sales tax.
Now-
goes to the school?
The other thing though, too, sorry, this is a passion of mine. You guys are.
What? Sorry, your audio cut out for a second.
Who, me?
Yes.
I'm wondering what are we contributing to the school?
As a first class city, you are contributing money to the school and paying for your education for the kids.
So the borough is collecting
Right, sales tax
and property tax.
and property tax, yeah.
There's a formula in Alaska statute for the local contribution.
Oh,
from a
so it's
First
just
class city.
pieces of our property taxes that are going towards the school.
Yes, I think it's 4.7 mils, Councilmember Swick. And then from that, I don't know if all of that or a portion of that goes to the school, but that does support the school out of our 12 point something mil rate.
And there is a
and-
very,
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna also point out in terms of the distinction between a first class city and a second class city is your allowable mill rates change too. Yeah, I think this is an interesting discussion. We'll get this cheat sheet to you guys to have all the time, maybe in a packet somewhere easily accessible. It really distinguishes between home rule, first class and second class.
And something that we've noticed is there is a little bit of a stigma in the community when they hear like, oh, we're a first class city, so we are so important. But there's only a few differences between a first class city and a second class city, and that's literally just those little.
Huh. Well, I guess that's good to know, because I mean, no one's going to turn their nose up at, yeah, we're not going to downgrade and cut money from our school. That's, I mean, if
Oh,
that's.
no, it doesn't cut money from the school, does it?
If you went from a first class to a second class, you don't have mandatory contribution.
Okay. I thought the borough did.
Interesting.
Didn't they?
Would
Is
there
there-
still be a borough mill rate?
There'd be a
Yeah.
borough. Borough.
Yeah.
And that is a difference. First class cities in the unorganized borough versus a first class city in the borough, which you guys are a part of. It's the borough's responsibility to collect all of the taxes and immediately transfer it to the city. First class cities in the unorganized borough, they have a whole staffing and department that does that. So a little bit of local government trivia here. I always encourage council members, appointed and elected officials in municipalities to network with other similarly situated municipalities, but not every municipality in the state of Alaska is the same. So a chief distinction is whether or not that municipality is inside or outside of the borough. There are differences, yeah, and they're nuanced.
Alrighty. So, pop quiz, because I love giving pop quizzes. And we've already said it multiple times. What is the city of Soldovia's classification?
First class city.
First class city. Options of first class city, second class city, or home rule. First class
Section.
city, section class city. Well, we found an error on this one.
Yeah, you guys are first class city, but also please, as a local government nerd here, please take that thought one more step. We are a first class city inside of borough.
All right. When was Soldovia reclassified? Options 1961, 1962, or 1963.
You were reclassified?
Yeah, we were first incorporated as
As
second
a second
class.
And you guys got bumped up?
Yeah.
I thought it
You
was 19.
reclassified through the local boundary?
Sorry, go ahead, John.
I thought it was 65, but I think it's 63 with the earthquake.
Well, let us see. 1962.
Because if you remember, we just had our 60th anniversary as a
Yep.
first class city. But what I think what's tripping you up with the 5 is that the city was incorporated in 1945 as a second class city.
Anybody around that remembers 1962 yet and what happened and how this all went down? Anybody still in the community that has that historical knowledge?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure
Nice.
there are.
Yeah, nice, okay.
All right. What happened in 1964 that caused the boardwalk to be replaced?
Earthquake, tidal wave.
Well, actually, wasn't it the tidal surge?
Yeah.
It was
Probably,
actually
yeah,
from the
2
earthquake.
weeks from the earthquake, but I think it happened after the earthquake, like 2 weeks after the earthquake or something.
Like that.
Something weird like that, yes.
Tidal surge.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, when was Seldovia Salmon Company built?
What is that?
What is that?
It was on the website.
Was there a Seldovia Salmon Company?
I don't know. Which website is that?
I'm not too sure. I know I put this together and it popped up like Seldovia Salmon Company.
I was gonna say, if that's for real, then it was probably way in the early 1900s.
I think that's
I'm just kidding.
But probably we have a Darlene Crawford who would probably know that.
Seriously. Okay.
all right. We're going into roles and responsibilities.
Wait, ladies, I have a trivia question for you.
Oh, let's do it.
Do you know what the room you're in used to be used for? Who used to be in that room?
There's a big safe here. Is the safe part of this room, original part of this room?
Was this the courthouse?
Was this? Do you know?
You're close. Well, you're close.
Was I was to say there's a
go ahead.
gavel over there.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen, tell us.
Yeah,
Rachel.
Rachel.
Or Rachel.
It is the Alaska room, so it's something with Alaska. There is a lot of earthquake stuff. There is a gavel in the
Was
safe.
this
It's a
the
very
original
old
city
safe.
council room?
Is
So
this something with territorial days?
You guys are doing so well. So there's a little office that's off of that room, and I believe that was the magistrate's office. And then I believe where you're at was the courtroom, and then also the Soldovia Women's Club was also involved in that space somehow.
There's two more rooms
I
back
was
there.
gonna say there's
Yeah,
that.
there's a gavel right there.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, well, there's,
Nice,
yeah,
nice,
there's
nice.
more offices and stuff on this side.
Yeah. Thank you. That was
Thank you. Turn to five. Okay, roles and responsibility.
Hey, what's this crab pot grocery thing?
That's the grocery store.
I've been here like a dozen times. It's totally teasing.
All right.
We had some interesting things in there.
So we have the oath of office, which you guys, as the city council, has said.
They've all taken, yeah.
I picked the name. I had "You're welcome" stuck in my head. So, duties of local government. Generally, it is to serve the public, to represent the values, needs, and desires of Soldovia's residents. Specifically, adopt a budget, provide services, regulate activities, run regular meetings, levy taxes, develop policies and procedures, establish election procedures, acquire, manage, control, use, dispose of real or personnel property, hire or confirm personnel, provide for fines and penalties, and establish, alter, or abolish municipal departments. How many of you knew that this is what you're supposed to do? And mind you, this is not the entire list.
Some of those I knew. Yeah, was our duties.
And did you know this list is where?
At the city office?
Somewhere in the city office, but what exactly? No, Heidi, no helping.
Sorry.
We've been talking about it a lot, and it is not your code. It is the Title
29.
Oh,
29.
Title 29, okay.
Title 29. If you ever have a question about something that you are supposed to be doing, you guys can just look up Title 29.
And these are the broad duties of local governments throughout Alaska. Many codes also have pulled this language from Title 29 and have it in their code as well.
Actually, I have a pop quiz question off the top of my head. If you have a situation and you cannot find it anywhere in your ordinance, what does it revert back to then?
Say that again.
So if you have a situation and your code of ordinances does not mention it whatsoever, what does it revert? And your code does not mention anything about it, it automatically reverts back to Title 29.
Now, taking that one step further though, if Title 29 doesn't prohibit something, what does Alaska's Constitution say? The Constitution says if your code in Title 29 or some other statute doesn't prohibit it, you probably can do it. I would at that point, however, encourage some consultation with the municipal attorney.
Yeah.
Very broad powers, the way the state's constitution is written for municipalities.
So roles of city council members, policy makers, you guys have change. Come on, change. There we go. For the planning commission, we told them that they wear 3 different hats. There is advisory, there's regulatory, and then there's procedural. You guys wear many, many, many different hats. You guys are policy makers, financial managers, personnel managers, ombudsmen, utility managers, planners, and lobbyists. Is there a word in there that you guys do not know about?
You mean something we don't normally do?
Or that you don't understand what they
Well,
do?
personnel managers, I guess. I mean, unless it's the city manager and or not even the police chief, because it's city manager.
Yeah, because we are, you're right, Bobby, because we are a manager form of government. You guys oversee the city manager and then she has the supervision of personnel. But you do manager.
Yeah, but not,
Technically, it is, just technically, because even though it's just one employee, she's in charge of all of these other employees, which means you are the umbrella for all of these.
Yes, and we have that in our budget. There's a slide that shows that in our budget. It's on the website. I can pull it up for you again. That shows just that picture that she mentioned of the umbrella with you guys at the top.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
no, I get that. I guess usually we just don't.
You don't think of,
We don't, say,
in order for all of these things, deliberate delegation is key. So, organizational chart. You guys serve the citizens of Seldovia. The mayor and the city council serves the citizens of Seldovia. Then you guys have the little attorney off to the side. But you guys are in charge of the city manager, who then runs all of these different sections. So in a way, the people who really run the town are the citizens, but you guys are the umbrella over all of the personnel.
Do you routinely have an org chart for council members?
It is in the budget, but maybe it makes me think it should be in their code of ordinances as well.
That would be a really good thing, especially we have had communities where the council members do not follow the org chart and like to boss around other employees. But if you have an ordinance, then it's by law, you have to follow this way.
We do have it in ordinance about the city manager duties.
Well, the reason I find an organizational chart to be incredibly helpful tool because there can be some morale issues, or you get into practice of a small community doing it a certain way, and then an org chart comes in and you're like, oh, that's not how we do things. And the org chart follows the ordinance, which is the legal structure of how the city is organized. I find it a helpful tool to have at your fingertips, a good reminder and something even for the public to be aware of. Why do you think the city attorney is off to the side like that?
Well, probably because the city attorney is, I mean, that's what, like, us or the city manager discusses certain things with him to see whether we could do it or not, or whether it's legal or not, or what the ramifications are of something, and so on and so forth. So the city attorney, I'm assuming, is in a class by itself.
And what does your code say about the city attorney? Does it
I
say-
don't know that it references the city attorney.
No, if I vote.
I would, if I was going to assume the city attorney is on the side because they're not an employee of the city, they're on a retainer. And additionally, it takes budget authority from the council and through the manager to be able to utilize the attorney.
And they are typically, they would be classified as an appointed official.
Yeah.
Beholden in this org chart, the city attorney is beholden to the mayor and the city council. That is who really through the manager. But in other words, what I'm trying to get at is, can your harbor department head just call the city attorney?
No.
And this is the thing that I think an org chart really spells out clearly, is the proper chain of command. And a lot of times when that is not followed or understood as it's written in code, Title 29 allows for the manager, the attorney, the police chief, and the clerk, or the clerk serving as the treasurer, as the appointed officials. But your code might tweak that around a little bit. So the org chart very much brings all of this into a picture from your code. I think it's a good tool, a tool to have.
Even if it wasn't here, I couldn't remember.
So this is kind of another version of the organizational chart where you have the people who elect the city council and mayor. Ordinance and resolutions and motions go through the manager and the clerk, and then they supervise the city staff. So how to be effective as a council person: study, prepare, listen, and contribute. Specifically, come to meetings. That is the biggest thing. If you don't come to a meeting, you're not really going to know what's going on. And I know there is the opportunity to watch it live, which some communities don't have, which is a really good thing for you guys. But if you also come to the meeting, you're able to really interact. And if you have questions, you can ask it right then and there. You don't have to come back and say, well, I have all these questions, and then sometimes overload your manager and your city clerk with all of these questions. Request and read your packet. Be prepared. Don't be a single issue member. It is not uncommon for someone to be elected and they want to be elected just for one specific issue. Don't do that. If you're going to be elected and if you're going to have this position, you have to be attentive and be ready to handle every issue that comes up. Take part in debates. That does not mean fight. That means debate. You don't want to have a meeting where you're going at each other's throats. Again, debate. Don't fight. I know sometimes things can get heated, and if you get to that point, stop, take a break, step away, clear your head. Ask for or request just a 5 to 10 minute break, clear your head, and then try and come back and calmer and a little bit more open to seeing their side so that they can also try and see your side, and then you can work out a way to help the situation. Don't micromanage. Know all sides of the issues. Rely on facts, not opinions. Maintain good relationship with staff. Staff takes care of you guys. Be kind to them. Be understanding with them. You guys are about to go through a transitional period that Rachel and Heidi are helping out and making things easier. But just remember to maintain those good relationships with them. Be familiar with Title 29 and your municipal code. Share information. Ask questions. Do you guys have any other ideas on how to be an effective council member?
Listen to the will of the community.
Listening to the community, that is a very good one. Any others?
Don't be on council too long.
No? If you're a good council person, stay on council.
I think what she means is don't get burned out.
That is a good one, guys. Don't get burnt out.
Very nicely put.
All right, are there any questions or comments?
That's the hotel. That picture's old
I have all
How does it
pictures.
look old? How do you know it's old?
because I put it together.
Those chairs.
Those
and
are
everything?
mine. Because they had nothing when they first opened. It's when they first bought the hotel. That particular picture is kind of cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
John, you have a question?
Yes, it goes back to the first class and second class city. Doesn't the mayor vote differently in a second class city than he does in a first class?
Yes, they do.
Okay,
So in a second class city, because the mayor is a member of the council, his or her vote does count. Whereas in a first class city, the mayor is not a member of the council. The mayor can only vote on an issue if there is a tie amongst the council members.
right.
Now conversely,
Go ahead.
the mayor in a second class city doesn't have veto power.
And the mayor in the first class city does.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm. I got a cheat sheet again, guys. We'll get it to you so you can have it at your
Okay, and then-
fingertip at all. Yeah,
then-
it's super interesting to see the differences. I agree. Yeah.
Then one other clarification, and it goes to the mill rate to the school. I'm assuming that is paid when the borough receives the money, then our payment is just deducted from whatever is forwarded to us, correct?
That would be my assumption. Rachel would know better.
Yeah. So that's why we don't necessarily see it as our contribution.
That is correct. I believe every single person in the
Information.
borough pays the same mill rate, and they collect on behalf of the city and then remit the taxes to the city. So then and it's like the mill rate, you just think of, Soldovia is 7.5. The borough, I believe, is 4.7, or actually they decreased their mill rate. So it's a little bit less than that, I believe. And then we have the Sursa 0.75 mill rate, which the borough also collects to run the SOC.
Right, the borough reduced their mill rate by 0.2%, I believe.
And the overall mandatory contribution, again, is set in statute, but I think Rachel, his question, the mechanics of it, the borough's collecting these taxes, probably just keeping what Seldovia's portion for the school contribution and obviously not remitting back, or remitting it in full, and then you're just transferring it back to the borough, mechanically speaking.
So if you pull up the 2022 mill rates on the borough website, what Rachel is saying is it shows that across the entire borough, the borough mill rate itself is 4.5. So I don't know if that would change whether we were a first class or a second class city, because all of the service areas, unincorporated areas, cities, everybody pays 4.5 as a mill rate to the borough.
So I am thinking mechanically, the property taxes that are collected above that are remitted back to the city.
Yes, yeah. Well, other than the source that goes for the service area, you know, we have a lot of service areas in this borough, and,
Oh, okay.
and one of them is the Soldovia service area, which is larger than the city, and it's operated through the borough, even though the personnel in the building is managed through the city. But so it has its own complexities, but that's specific to that service area. But otherwise, it's just Soldovia and the borough, yes,
Yeah.
in this area.
Well, it is a perfect time right now. Let's take a break and then we'll come back at 3.
Okay, and Heidi, I have to go to the school, so this is it for me.
Okay, yep, it'll be on YouTube, it'll be live, and I sent that packet out that talks about the best practice presentation. So if you have any questions later, definitely let me know.
Okay, all right, thank you, ladies.
You're very welcome.
Hey, is Councilman Kennedy here? John,
Yes.
are you here? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
I am.
John,
Yes, I'm here.
Councilman Kennedy?
Yes. You're breaking.
Hey, are we clear? I want to make sure because yeah, breaking up here. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about the borough school thing. I want to make sure you understand that the borough does take the lead.
Yeah,
The school contribution, which is coming through the mill. The borough is collecting the other portion of the mill. Okay, good. All right, thank you.
I understood that. I'm just trying to clarify what was asked previously.
And if I could just add to that, for the record, that the reason why I mentioned sales tax is because in 1964, the borough voters authorized the borough to levy an area-wide sales tax of up to 3% of the price for all the sales, right, retail rents and services rendered within the borough. And that tax is dedicated exclusively to the Kenai Peninsula Borough Schools. So even though that may not be the local contribution necessarily, I'm not sure how that works. I do know that the borough, the 3% that's collected here by businesses goes exclusively to the schools for the Kenai Peninsula Borough.
So what's the total sales tax here in Sylvania?
So Seldovia has a seasonal sales tax.
Correct.
And in the summer, it's total with borough and city 9.5%. And in the winter, it's 5%. And the borough is always 3%.
So the borough, again, is collecting the sales tax and remitting back to the city.
Right.
All righty, we're gonna get into a little bit of another icebreaker. We're just gonna do like, which option do you like more? So if you prefer some or more, raise your hand or say aye online. Melody, anyone else in here like some or more? John likes some or more? Okay. Who prefers winter?
4 in the room.
Yep, winter wins. Woo. Rachel, do you have a preference?
Rachel's moving to Arizona.
I like, if I had to choose, I actually like spring the best.
Yeah, I like fall.
Understand.
Fall is mine. Yeah, I gotcha.
All right. Are you a morning person or a night person? Raise your hand if you're a morning person. So we got 3. John, we got 4. All right, raise your hand if you're a night person. Raise your hand if you're neither.
Are you a middle of the day person?
Very much so.
All right. Which option do you like more? Sugary candy or chocolate? We know.
Well, you have to get one. I can't either.
Oh, all right. So if you prefer sugary candy, raise your hand.
Well, I'm not supposed to, but I.
All right. Who likes chocolate? Me. I love chocolate. All right. Would you rather watch a movie about Soldovia that is a comedy or a horror?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well,
Nope. Has to be one or the other. Who votes a comedy?
Well, then I'd be a
Yeah.
comedy.
John. So we've got 5. I would vote horror.
Sometimes we live the horror of Sylvania.
I don't believe that one bit.
I did something silly and decided to watch a horror movie at 5 a.m. when it's dark outside. And so I'm just like, oh, it's fine, it's fine. And then I get done with it. I'm like, it's still dark outside. I'm gonna die. All right. Would you rather be the mayor or a council member? And no, you cannot say staff.
You say what?
Staff.
can't
How about neither?
Staff,
Nope.
Oh.
staff. I can too say staff.
You can. It's like what you have to pick one of them. So who would rather be mayor?
I would
No
rather you
one's
be
gonna
mayor.
admit to what.
I would rather you be mayor.
Bring it. I'll be there.
No one's gonna admit to
Although then
that.
you would lose me as a local government specialist. I don't know if that would be a good thing or a bad thing. All right. Would you rather be the mayor or the manager? Dun, dun. Who would rather be the mayor?
It's called easy, you know that. And again, what's the difference in a manager plan between the manager and the mayor? Anybody?
The mayor, the manager has all of the administrative control from the mayor.
Yeah, the mayor doesn't really have any.
In a right. In a manager form of government,
Right.
there was a vote of the people at some point in Sildovia's history. That the people said, yes, we want to take the executive and administrative functions from the mayor and put it into a manager.
All right. Now we go on to ethics and conflicts of interest, as hopefully the page will change. Page change.
It changed on my screen.
What? It changed on yours?
Yeah.
Okay. So Alaska Ethics Act. It is covered under Alaska Statute 3952-010 through 960. It prohibits public officials from using positions to secure employment or contracts, accept, receive, solicit compensation from the city, use goods for own personal, political, financial gain, use city goods for partisan political purposes, or accept gifts intended to influence action/judgment. Improperly use or disclosure of information. So Alaska Ethics Act. Civil and criminal penalties may apply for violations of the Ethics Act. Again, I will reiterate. Civil and criminal penalties may apply for violations of the Ethics Act. So conflict of interest is defined as in Alaska Statute 2920-010 requires munis adopt a conflict of interest ordinance. A member shall declare a substantial financial interest. Presiding officer's rules on the request. Decision may be overridden by council majority. If ruled a conflict, the member is excused from voting, and then the member shall still participate in the debate and all of the votes before the council. So what this is saying is if you believe that you have a conflict of interest, you declare it. The presiding officer, who is the presiding officer for the city of Soldovia? Pop quiz.
Here.
You mean during a meeting? Well,
It's the chair.
yeah, the chair, the mayor, or.
The chair or the
runs
mayor.
meeting.
Yep.
Yes.
So the presiding officer would then rule on the request, and if the council then decides that they don't agree with it, they can override the decision. Now, if it is ruled a conflict, the member is excused, but they can still participate in the debate and all other votes before the council. So if you have multiple issues, if you declare conflict for one of those issues, you can still participate in the other issues. So your Soldovia code says it's Title 2, Section Chapter 4, Section 090. This is your ordinance pertaining to conflicts of interest. I'll give you a second to do a quick read through.
But, 204.
Oh, first council.
Did you guys down to state
APOC?
2010?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can pull it. Actually, yeah.
So this kind of just reiterates what I have said. They, council member may not participate in the official action in which the employee or official has a substantial financial interest. So, guiding principles. Some conflicts may only appear to be improper. Not all involve substantial financial interest. Some may only seem to lead to an unfair advantage, and it's not unusual, especially in rural communities. One community that I have gone to, they were voting in a council member who was the daughter of the president because it was a tribe. And so the president says, because she is my daughter, even though it's not a financial issue, she stepped back and let the other council members vote. That wasn't technically a conflict of interest, but she wanted to make sure that it didn't seem improper.
And that's in the course of my being on council, that's what I have seen everybody do, even if it's a little thing, they step back.
Yeah. And that is
Just-
very good.
Just to be on the safe side.
That's a very good policy to have. So if you are not sure, declare it. Then it is up to the mayor/council to decide. So we have the council, the Seldovia City Council, and the mayor. So voting whether to ban hand fishing in Seldovia. One member has a conflict, has a job at the cannery, if there is a cannery. So they declare a potential conflict. The mayor then decides, yes, that is a conflict, and that employee is no longer allowed to, that council member is no longer allowed to vote. The member does not vote unless council overrides it. There's a second scenario. Voting whether to spend money on boardwalk cleanup. And one member has a house on the boardwalk. They declare the potential conflict just in case. And then the mayor comes back. No, that is not a conflict. It is fine. There is no financial standing right there. Members must vote. The member must vote unless it is overridden by the council. Members are only required to declare. The mayor ultimately decides, though the council can override. And the key word is substantial financial interest. Now, we're going to get into ex parte contacts. Did it change on your screen? Okay. When someone who wants something from the governing body contacts a council member outside of the public forum to offer information and gain the member's support. You are responsible for hearing all residents' concerns, but all information gained should be public information. And you must be sure to hear all sides before making a decision. So what should you do? Now, let's say there is a contract in front of the council. One person who's putting in a bid is myself. The other person who's putting in a bid is Melody. Now, Council Member Sweat, how about we go fishing this weekend and we talk about that? What do you think?
No.
Very good. But what if we just go fishing and we talk about how the weather's doing and things that we can relax about? What do you think?
Yeah, that's okay.
How does it seem though?
Oh, well, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Here's the thing, always be cautious, because if, let's say, she and I go out, we don't talk about anything, but How does it look to Melody? Melody, would you be happy about that?
It's hard in a small town, isn't
Yes,
it?
there you go.
Very hard in a
Yeah.
small town.
It is, and we understand that, we get that, but if you think for some reason you have ex parte communication, you let the clerk know, and then you provide the information of what was said, what was covered, and everything like that at a regular meeting. So that you inform the public of what was said and you inform the council of what was said.
This is something that we did discuss with the commission, the planning commission. This is something that the planning commission very much needs to be aware of. Because they form a quasi, they serve.
Sorry, well, and that's difficult in a small town too, because everybody goes to the same functions. And there's usually could be all members of the council are there. So
we'll get to that.
we've struggled with that, yeah.
So here are some solutions. 1, ask the person to share the info with the whole council. 2, if they don't share the info, share the info yourself, commas, I like commas. If the info is in writing, distribute it to the council, seek opposing viewpoints, and remember that if it is important for you to hear, it is important for all to hear. Nepotism and cronyism. Cronyism? Oh, I said it right, yay. So nepotism is favoritism to family and cronyism is favoritism to friends. So let's say I'm on a council and my cousin is bidding on helping us rebuild a house. And then I let everyone know like, hey, you should pick my cousin, do it. That is nepotism. But let's say the other person is my friend and I'm like, yeah, no to family, give it to my friend, help them. That is cronyism.
That's hard in a small town too.
Yeah.
It's a
Definitely.
But the best thing to do in this situation is if you think that there's a conflict there, you take a step back, or you just make sure that you hear all views and you take all views into consideration. Soldovia Code Title 204090C, Part 1. All elected or appointed officials of the city of Soldovia shall complete the Soldovia Financial Disclosure Statement for public officials. Guys, you want to be very transparent to the public. All right. That is the ethics and conflict of interest. Are there any questions?
I did want to point out for the new council members, when you're networking with other municipalities, some municipalities still have to file financial disclosures with the state of Alaska. The Alaska Public Offices Commission, Seldovia appointed and elected officials do not. In 2010, there was a vote in the community to exempt the city from that requirement. However, there is still a requirement at the local level, not at the state level. Some municipalities are still doing one or the other.
All righty. Okay, here's a little icebreaker for everyone that they can do in the room. Share something you got to do during the pandemic that you might not have done otherwise. Let's start with Miss Heidi.
I got to work from home briefly with my children while they went to school from home. That was, I don't know if that was a good thing or not, but it was definitely a close bonding family experience. I also became a public information officer, which I was informally before that, and then very, very formally designated that afterwards.
Right? Councilmember Swift.
Clean my house
Oh,
10
that's
times. I mean, I cleaned my house, but not that often. I cleaned it more. One of the negative things was I didn't go see my family as much as I usually do. They live in Seward, and there was a huge outbreak there every time I turned around, so that was a bummer, but the house cleaning was okay. But now it needs it again.
Let's just not hope for another pandemic.
No.
Oh. One thing I got to do is I got to learn a lot about technology, fixing things from a distance. I learned how to fix an entire computer just being on the phone. I did not know that before, and it took a lot of patience and a lot of tendencies to get through it.
Yeah, I too had to, my daughter was in 4th grade and had to start a packet. It was about this thick. Take us about 2 weeks to get through, and a lot of tears. Oh, that was really painful.
I'm trying to think of something.
All right, let's go to Rachel. Rachel, do you have anything?
I would say something that was really incredible to work on is helping my coworkers figure out a way to distribute the CARES Act money to community members through, like, you know, economic, sorry, I have a phone call coming in, so I just got distracted, but that was really cool to have business programs or assistance to individuals through CARES Act.
Nice.
And then Councilmember Kennedy?
Mine is really short, to wear a mask where I wouldn't normally.
Oh, nice.
I can do that one.
Okay, that works.
The mask was new to me too.
Actually, I self-testing as well.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I still, to this day, I get a sniffle or a sore throat. I still want to go test myself.
See, I've had it twice, so I know what my body feels like when I have it. So when I have a cold, they're like, "Is it COVID?" I'm like, "No." Why? How do you know? I'm still vertical. Oh, okay. All right, so now we're going over meetings. So there are 4 types of meetings. There are the regular meetings, special meetings, emergency meetings, and work sessions. Now we're going to go over the differences between all 4. So a regular meeting, it meets, you guys only meet once a month or
Twice a month.
twice a month? Ah, I was right. So twice a month, the code says the 2nd and 4th, you changed it to Mondays, right? Mondays, okay. Ignore the Wednesdays, it is Mondays of every month. You have to specify the date, time, and place, and it technically can be canceled by a vote of at least 4 council members. So that is your regular meeting. Special meetings, they do not take the place of a regular meeting. I'm going to reiterate this. They do not take the place of a regular meeting. Now, let's say you reschedule your regular meeting, that now becomes a special meeting. It's no longer a regular meeting. Same requirements, different time. Notice explains the nature of the item to consider, and only those items listed can be considered. You can't in the middle of the meeting say, "Oh, I also, I move to add these items onto the agenda." No. Once an agenda is done, you cannot edit it, you cannot add anything. You can subtract, but you cannot add.
In a special meeting.
In a special meeting. Okay. An emergency meeting, this is a special meeting with 24 hours notice or less. It's held to address urgent pressing issues, 24 plus hours oral or written notice to a majority of members, less than 24-hour notice if all members present, or if absent members waive in writing. Ordinances adopted to address in emergencies only effect for 60 days. And then a work session, this is a committee or a council of the whole, allow for informal discussion and closer study of issue. No action can be taken, but recommendations can be made. So the notice requirements. A regular meeting is at least 5 days. The code says for a special meeting, at least 24 hours for a and then for an emergency meeting is 24 hours or less. and then a work session at least 24 hours. Now, Title 29 and the OMA court rulings, in some cases, it requires reasonable notice. What, in your opinion, and Heidi cannot help, or Rachel cannot help, what is reasonable notice? And Melody can't help it.
In what, any of those types of meetings?
When you're planning a meeting, what is reasonable notice?
Well, I guess 24 hours.
There is no actual date set for reasonable notice. So when they say reasonable notice, it implies that it depends on what is being talked about. So in one situation, a community was passing an ordinance on something that had to do with schooling. They had that in the middle of summer and only did the week notice. And then when people came back in August or September for school and they found out that this had been passed, people were very angry because they did not have reasonable notice. In that case, they should have started posting maybe in April or May to say, hey, this is what is going to be discussed. That way, if people wanted to write in, they could write in. They could, if it was hybrid, they could have attended via Zoom. But you have to give reasonable notice depending on the topic being discussed.
I guess I was thinking of either the emergency or the work sessions, because I knew regular meetings have to be posted longer.
At
So
least 5 days.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is a really good example of how the connection and relationship between state statute and municipal code. State statute's kind of vague. It says reasonable notice. This is an opportunity for the code to define what's reasonable for their.
And your code does say at least 5 days.
Some other codes say 7. Some say 3. But the reasonable, again, what Tricia said very well earlier, you do want to fit to the needs of the community. Do you know what I mean? For example, in Alaska, we know that a lot of the coastal communities are fishing communities, right? So there's a tenor, a flavor, a feel to a community. So I think that's a really good example of Alaska statute and its relationship to a municipal code.
So I guess you could say it depends on what kind of meeting you're gonna have or what you're gonna discuss. Like what you were saying in that scenario, people aren't even there.
The people that it was going to affect. are not
Right,
even-
right. So, okay.
Yep. Did you have a question, John?
Nope, I do not.
Okay. All right. So when you guys are discussing the topics and what needs to be on there, think about who it is going to affect and who should be there. And provide quote unquote reasonable notice.
It's not defined again in
Yes.
code.
No.
Well, and basically we have done that with work sessions, actually.
What?
Because we would want, sometimes we would prefer everybody be there.
We'd always prefer everybody.
Well, that's true, but sometimes that doesn't happen. So then we pick a different time, I guess you could say.
Oh, to hold a work session.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
people
so it
could
would be
there.
longer,
Oh, yeah.
that, you know. Okay.
So the Opens Meetings Act. Well, this is just open meetings as just defined by in your code. All meetings of the council and of committees, commissions, boards or agencies created or authorized by the council or by this code, supported in whole or in part by public funds, or entrusted with extended public funds shall be open to the public, except as otherwise provided in Alaska Statute 4462(3)10. So this is your code that states it must be public. Now, for those of you interested in reading the exact statutes for the Open Meetings Act, it is 4462(3)10, Open Meetings Act, OMA. All meetings of the governing governmental body of a public entity of the state are open to the public. This ensures public participation, mandates all meetings of governmental bodies shall be public, and is broadly interpreted. So, who is covered? Who is covered by the OMA? You have governmental bodies and you have public entities. But who is not covered? Individuals, membership organizations, U.S. government, native entities, private corporations, and employees and staff. So while the council and the mayor are covered under the OMA, Rachel and Heidi are not. So what is a meeting? There are two different types of meetings. You have a policymaking meeting, which is a gathering of a majority of the governmental body, where a matter upon which this body is empowered to act is considered collectively by the members. And then you have the advisory only meeting, which is a gathering of members of a governing body where the purpose is considered a matter to advise and upon which the governmental body is empowered to act. So the OMA protects the public's rights. The OMA aids the people's business. The people do not yield their sovereignty. Representatives don't decide what is good for the public to know. The public needs to know everything. You guys are not allowed to say, oh, well, the public shouldn't know this. No, the public needs to know everything. They have the right to remain informed, the right to be heard, and you should provide them with reasonable notice and opportunity to attend. So we get back into the what's reasonable. As covered by statute, reasonable public notice shall be given for all meetings, which has the notice, date, and time of place, at least 24 hours, posted in 3 public consistent places, print or broadcast, and again, must be consistent. You can't post in one location and then the next one post in a different one. If you post in one location, you post to that location every single time. And I believe it is listed in your statute where you must post.
Yes, it's listed that we post at the post office, the city office. Let me find the actual code. The bulletin board on the city office, yeah, right here. Council meeting shall be given to the public by posting to the city's website, to the official bulletin board at City Hall, and the city bulletin board at the Philadelphia Post Office. We also post at the multipurpose building. That became the norm. Well, it's kind of pre-COVID, but really COVID, just so there was no location for everybody to see, and especially because this is the meeting hall. So we post in all 4 of those locations every time.
Very good. Now, some particulars that are covered that you need to be careful of. You have serial communication, polling council members, email correspondence between council members, email correspondence with staff. And if you are interested in reading it, there is an article by Gordon Tans called the Alaska Open Meeting Act. Now, when we talk about serial communication, you want to think about this is communication that comes off as if the council is deciding something already before a public meeting. Now, if you look down to email correspondence, I have had a community recently where they had a lot of new council members and they started emailing each other and CCing the other community members, and the clerk reached out to me saying, Trisha, help us. And I had to let them know that, guys, it looks like you're deciding something and all of this needs to be in front of the public. So even if you're just talking with one of your council members like, hey, what do you think? You have to be very cautious. That also goes into polling council members. You can't call one council member, hey, what are you going to vote on this? And call the next, hey, what are you going to vote on this? What are you going to vote on this? Guys, that means that a decision has already been made. So you have to be very, very cautious with what you're doing. Actually, I'm going to go back a slide and we're going to talk a little bit more about this. The open meeting law by Gordon Tans, especially in small communities, a lot of council members are going to be in a certain area together. But you just want to be careful because technically a public meeting can be defined as 4 or more council members that are together. So next are executive sessions. Executive sessions are held during a public. In an executive session, you can't call an executive session without it being involved in a public meeting. It has to be in it, much like this box. It must begin and end in a public meeting, public temporarily excluded due to the subject matter, which means you guys kick the public out. It is not recorded. Only certain topics may be discussed and no action can be taken. If the council does come to a decision on something, or if they're done discussing things and they want to call it to a vote, they end the executive session, bring the public back in, go back on record, and at that point, then they can take action. But no action can be taken during that executive session. Only certain topics can be discussed. The first one is adverse financial impact. The second is reputation and character. The third, matters required to be kept confidential. The fourth, confidential records. And then the fifth, which is attorney-client privilege. The first, if something is going to have an adverse financial impact on the community, you want to talk about that behind closed doors. Any financial impact. The second, reputation and character. Let's say you guys decide as a council and as a community, you guys hate me as an LGS and you want to talk about how horrible I am. You guys would have the option of doing that in an executive session, but the first thing that you have to do is you have to alert me because you're talking about my reputation. If you're talking about someone, you have to alert them that, hey, we want to discuss this. Then you ask them, you would ask me like Ms. Sullivan or Trisha, would you rather have this done behind closed doors in an executive session, or do you want this public? And let's say I'm like, well, everyone knows I suck. Let's have it in the public, that's fine. Or if I'm like, no, I don't want this being discussed in front of everyone, then I would just ask that that be made in an executive session. Then at that point, it is up to the council to decide who attends the executive session. Only the council and the mayor are allowed to be in the executive session unless they decide if they want to invite someone. So if the council decides, hey, we want to invite the clerk can stay. Hey, since we are talking about, if you guys aren't talking about me, you would say, Trisha, we want you to stay. Or you could say, nope, you're outside. We just want to talk about you. So it is the person's reputation. It is the person whose reputation you were talking about. They decide if it is public or confidential. And then the council decides if that person is invited to executive session or not. Matters required to be confidential. My biggest example right there is anything that has to do with kids. Anything that if you're going to be discussing a kid, if you have to deal with something that involves minors, that is done in an executive session. Confidential records, medical records. If you guys are talking about someone's medical history, which I don't know why you would, but still that is done behind closed doors. And then of course, if your attorney is there for a specific reason, you would want to have that communication between the attorney and the council behind executive session doors. Now, you do have to alert the public, like this is what is going to be discussed, but they do not get to hear what is being, like the actual physical discussion. Okay, make quiz time. Any gathering where 3 or more members of the governing body meet to discuss issues in which they are empowered to act counts as a legal meeting. and must be open to the public and given reasonable notice. So if 4 members of the city council run into each other on the boardwalk, is this a situation, a violation of the OMA?
Yes,
Do we know what's being discussed? Nope. It could be. We don't know. This is a maybe. Because we don't know what's being discussed. We don't know what's going on. So in this situation, we need more information. So,
However, we all know what that looks like in a small town, right?
so 4 members of the city council run into each other on the boardwalk. They begin discussing the 2022 Super Bowl halftime show. Is this a violation of the meeting OMA?
no,
Nope, this is not a violation.
But again, it could look,
It could look bad.
like that to a passerby, because they don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly, exactly.
I had a really great training with an attorney a few years back about OMA. And the biggest thing that stuck with me from it was that the court is not out to get anybody. The court is just looking for intent. If this comes up, they're going to look for intent. Are you planning an event with multiple council members in order to have discussion behind the public's back? Are you, if you're going to a Christmas program and everybody happens to be there, you're sitting in separate chairs away from each other, you all have kids in the event, grandkids, that it's that intent piece that they're really looking for. And that's why we do try to be careful in scheduling any city business, that it's always noticed that there may be multiple council members there. And then staying away from having a quorum by not having more than 2 council members attend anything at a time if it constitutes having a council member there. But really, I thought that was really great advice. It's the intent. So if you meet each other on the boardwalk and you didn't mean for you to all be there and you happen to have a conversation not city related, it's bound to happen.
Right.
But if you're like, hey, I know at 2 p.m. every day, and I think I'm gonna go and walk this same trail, and I'm gonna take my buddy council member John with me, and we'll bring so and so behind. That way we can talk about this topic.
That gets into the next one.
Well, and we must remember the holidays are coming up.
Yes. And here-
Parties.
Yep, and here's the thing, it then goes back to what Heidi was saying is the intent. Like, again, you have some communities where they only have 20 to 30 people. It's bound to happen. But if we have a situation like this, 4 members of the city council run into each other at the harbor. They begin discussing a possible ordinance to ban the eating of ice cream in all municipal buildings. Is this a violation of the OMA?
Yes.
Yes, this is a very, very clear violation. And if you can't tell, we love ice cream.
And I would
Chocolate.
I would just throw in there as a reiteration of the serial meetings. So even if, say, you're in a business establishment or at a city park, or you are somewhere, and well, it doesn't really matter where you are, and you have a discussion with one council member about city business, and then later on in the day or week, you have a discussion with another council member about that city business. And then later on that day, again with another city council meeting or council member, that can be a meeting. That is a meeting. If you have a quorum, if you have multiple people talking about the same issue, or even say, Bobby, you talk to John about something, and then John goes and talks to Vivian about it, however that works. And then Vivian goes and talks, even though you didn't do it, you now have multiple council members roped into the same discussion, same topic. That's a serial meeting. You've violated Open Meetings Act.
Right.
It, as I said earlier, it is a very slippery slope. You always have to be cautious.
And the letter of the law actually reads more than 3 members or a majority of the members, whichever is less.
All right. A new committee has been formed to discuss long-term COVID mitigation plans. The committee meets in private at one of the committee members' home. is this a violation of the OMA?
Yes.
It is a violation. All right. There is a COVID mitigation committee meeting at City Hall in 2 hours. Is this a violation of the Open Meetings Act?
No,
I mean, hopefully it's posted. Well.
This is where we get into the maybe. We have no idea when it was posted.
Okay,
We had
maybe,
no
yeah.
idea when they did it. This is a maybe.
Remember, the OMA has that reasonable notice
Mhm.
component to it.
There is a COVID mitigation committee meeting at City Hall in 5 days. The city clerk has posted notice for the meeting in all regular posting places. Is this a violation?
No.
oh,
Nope, they are doing exactly what they're supposed to. An executive session is being held. The meeting will not be noticed to the public because the public will not be able to attend anyway. Is this a violation?
yes,
Yes, a very big one, because an executive session must be held during a public meeting.
And I will emphasize, not just a public, it cannot be a work session. It has to be a public meeting, which is why when there is a possible executive session, it's noticed as either a special or a regular meeting. You go into that meeting, do roll call vote, approve the agenda, go through all the steps of a regular or special meeting. And then you'll see it posted. If it's not listed under executive session on the agenda, it'll be listed as possible executive session, because the council cannot decide to go into an executive session until they are in that public meeting or in a prior meeting. Potentially they could make that motion, but that decision typically would not be made until they're in the meeting itself. So that's why it's possible, even though it's probable. And it's noticed that it can occur, if not until council makes the decision and the motion to enter into it.
How do you notice it on your agenda? Do you give a brief explanation without giving
Right,
confidential
Yes, so
information out?
we have a section on our agenda that's just for executive session. And then sometimes you might see it under either public hearing or new business if you know that there's going to be action taken, depending on what the topic is. And it's always noticed with the statute that is covered by it and a brief description of what it is. And that is also what is read as the motion. That way it clearly states why they're going,
Yep.
What statute is covered and then why they're going in.
That's good
And
to
then
hear.
who they invite in as well.
Good to hear.
Now we are getting into parliamentary procedure. The question of why bother doing it? One, it is a structure for debate. It allows for one thing at a time. It is the will of the majority, but the rights of the minority, and it's fair in an impartial forum. So your code, Title 2, Chapter 4, Section 080, Adoption of Robert's Rules of Order. It shall be the authority on parliamentary rules and procedure of the council unless otherwise provided by rule, regulation, or a provision of this council. Now, Robert's Rules of Orders lists everything about motions, how they're made, how they're disposed of, types of motions, and the relationship between motions. Motion, the type of motions. They're classified into 4 types. Proposals of the, there we go. Classified into 4 types. The main motion. Oh, we're just gonna wait a second. Well, there, one more click. Sorry, one of the screens is a little bit slow. There we go. Classified into 4 types. You have the main motion, the subsidiary motion, the privileged motion, and then the incidental motion. So, and here you have the 4, as it will change. So we have main, subsidiary, privileged, incidental. A main motion brings business before the council. Motion to consider a new law, motion to adopt a resolution, motion to amend the city code. So a subsidiary motion is, it modifies or disposes of the main motion. Motion to amend the main motion, motion to postpone, motion to lay on the table, motion to refer to a committee. So if for, let's say a motion comes up about rezoning, you could say in a subsidiary motion, I move this to the planning commission. That would be a subsidiary motion. Privileged motion, a motion to adjourn, a motion to take a recess, motion to call for order of the day, and a motion to raise a question of privilege. Then we get into the incidental motions, motions to rise to a point of order, motion to rise to parliamentary inquiry, motion to withdraw another motion, and then motion to suspend the rules. Now, all of these motions are a building block. Without, so it starts on the bottom is main, the next one above that is subsidiary, the one above that is privileged, and then the one above that is incidental. Think of it as you have building blocks. You have main motion on the bottom, subsidiary above that, privileged above that, and then incidental above that. You can't just grab the main motion and rip it out, because then everything falls. You have to take those blocks off one at a time, starting at the top until they get back to the bottom one, which is main. So if you get rid of the incidental motion, you have the privileged motion. What's that? Order of precedence. There we go. So the main is on the bottom. We're going to go with the motion to eat ice cream. And again, as you can tell, we love ice cream. That is the main motion that is brought in front of the council. On top of that, you have the subsidiary motion. Motion to amend the main motion to specify chocolate ice cream. Then you have the privileged motion, which has nothing to do with the first two motions. Motion to adjourn for lunch. Well, since it is way past lunchtime, we would say, well, that motion is denied. So that's now been taken care of and that building block is gone. Then we motion to amend the main motion and specify chocolate ice cream. We would either agree and deny that. And then let's say since one person cannot eat chocolate ice cream, we say we deny that anyone can eat whichever one they want. Then we go back to the motion to eat ice cream, and then you can take care of that one. So you have the building blocks of motions and you have to take care of them in that order.
I have a question.
Yes.
What if your subsidiary motion is a motion to refer to committee? Then what happens to your main motion?
Your main motion is put on hold until the planning committee is able to look at everything, make their decision. It is brought back to the council. And then at that point, the committee will say, this is our recommendation. And then the council will then vote, bring it back and vote on the main motion. So, making a motion, a member seeks recognition from the chair or the mayor. Mr. Mayor. Member is recognized by the chair and has the floor. Council member Jane. Make a motion. I move to eat ice cream. Motion is seconded. I second the motion. Okay. Then the chair or the mayor will restate the motion to the body. Motion to eat ice cream. Is there any discussion? Then we get into debate. Ice cream's delicious. I don't like ice cream. I'm lactose intolerant. And they pull for a council vote. No. And then the chair announces the result. The motion is carried. We shall all have ice cream. Yes.
Sorry, my brain sometimes goes in a different direction. So where is the public in this?
That's a great question. Do you guys want to answer that or do you want me to take it?
Well,
You want me
I
to
mean,
take
you
it?
guys,
Heidi.
you guys do a different things a little bit more differently than what we're used to, so.
So, under Robert's Rules of Order, the
Yeah,
public is not required, you're not required to allow the public to speak. However, for a public hearing, such as an ordinance passage, you are required to allow the public
okay,
to speak. And you'll see in other municipalities or other organizations and boards on their agenda, they will have a place for the public to speak under a public hearing. And then not necessarily under any other business, but there will be a place at the end of the agenda for the public to speak of any topics on the agenda. However, Soldovia really encourages public input, and that is a process that has been incorporated into most of the business that the council has take place and allows for that. Additionally, we are also a little bit backwards because in Robert's rules,
I
if you
remember
remember,
we
we
changed
tried.
the order or tried to change it or
Yeah.
something.
We tried
Okay.
to change the order so that according to Robert's rules, the motion would be made first and then the debate and then the vote, right? Well, in Soldovia, it's the discussion happens first and then the motion. We have a great mayor now who will then allow a second debate if needed. That can be very time consuming in a meeting because that's when the debate is supposed to occur. But typically, you guys have already had that discussion. It's discussion, you hear from the public, and that's backwards too, by the way. And the reason why it's done that way with council discussion and then public presentation was the public there was comments from the public that they were struggling with the fact, or they didn't like the fact that they would give their opinion on a topic without knowing which way the council was going to go. And then when the council responded or did debate and discuss, then the public would want to have that opportunity to respond.
Right,
And that seemed like that was an
remember
important
that, yeah.
piece that they were able to respond after they heard from the council. So it is a custom rule in Soldovia that is, well, and I shouldn't even say, I mean, it is custom in a way that it's done that way. But I have spoken with parliamentarian experts in the field from across the nation at different trainings that I've had the opportunity to be. And because the Soldovia City Council has less than 12 board members, it is considered a small board, and that is acceptable. But if you think about, and I could talk about this all day, but I won't. If you think about the reason why we do follow Robert's rules, the reason why it's in code is so that an efficient meeting can be run. And if you noticed when we're in the meetings and we go, council, public, that's when you start eating up a lot of your time. You're not necessarily able to get through your business. So it's really there as a guide to just provide for that efficiency. And that's why we spell it out on the agenda.
Yeah, I guess I just either didn't know or forgot that the public does not need to comment on
According to Robert's rules,
Yeah.
they do not.
everything. Okay.
But there is some legal basis in this too, in Alaska statute on how to pass an ordinance.
Yes,
There is that procedure involved that does require the public
right.
has a right to be there and a right to be heard. Action by the council technically occurs after that.
Yeah.
Hearing, if you will. So there is a little bit of a precedence in statute for, there is.
And that's why it would be listed as public hearing, which we have in our code. Under our meetings order of business, we do have public hearings specifically for that. But the unfinished business, new business, the same procedure is followed in Sildovia, even though it doesn't necessarily have to. It just seems to be the
Term
best.
customary. I like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
the term that you use, the
I think
customary.
it's better if the public has something to say. Again, in a small town, perception is everything, I think. And so it's better we just have everybody weigh in on everything, even if they don't. The opportunity is there for them to do it.
Well said.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this about a resolution.
Mhm.
How is that handled here? Say you've got it on the agenda, you've got a new business, it's a resolution. Under that, in the agenda, there's room for public comment.
So there is
There is a distinction, though.
there is a distinction because actually for some resolutions, there is not necessarily the opportunity for public comment if they're on the consent agenda.
Right.
The council has the opportunity to remove any item of business under the consent agenda to be discussed and voted on separately. But if it's under there and the consent agenda is used as a tool for items that are customary, not customary, so are ordinary housekeeping procedural. So resolutions that would come up annually that are or that have been discussed before and already direction and approval's been spoken for them. And then in that case, the public would not have the opportunity to speak on it. But they could still speak under public comment.
Later down on the agenda.
Well, it's prior to it, but yeah, public presentation, yeah.
A resolution as opposed to an ordinance doesn't have that series of first reading, public hearing, second reading action, if you will. A resolution can be noticed, taken up, discussed, and passed, or whatever official action taken on that same day. So the ordinance process really embedded in it is to hear from the public because it is a permanent change
Possibly.
to the law. So there's an added protected measure there where the public has the right to partake in that process.
So just a few particulars of Robert's Rules of Order. There is the raise a question of privilege, point of order, addressing the chair, and suspending the rules. So raise a question of privilege are questions relating to the rights and privileges of the assembly or an individual. Includes matters of comfort, amplification, or safety, matters of urgency. Point of order, a tool for ensuring rules and laws are being followed, both parliamentary and otherwise, and does not end a debate, but brings the debate into accordance with parliamentary procedure. It is also used to correct a breach in the rules. To suspend the rules temporarily sets aside rules of the assembly, primarily used to take up particular items of business out of regular agenda order, must ensure fundamental rules and rights of the minority still respected. Addressing the chair. Members address the chair directly, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, or in this case, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor, Mr. Councilman, Mrs. Council members. Members may speak after the chair has assigned them the floor. This ensures there is only one person speaking at a time and everyone has the opportunity to speak. If you do not have this, you will have chaos of people talking over each other and you do not want that to happen.
So I noticed something at Monday's meeting that was very critical from the manager. Does anyone remember what she said during that meeting at one point?
She says it a lot.
She
when
says it a
goes-
lot.
When she goes to speak.
Oh,
Through the chair.
yeah, through the chair, right.
That's why it's a function of parliamentary procedure. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was rather odd when she first did it because nobody else has ever done it that I was aware of. And then she did it and I thought, oh my goodness, she's real straight, with her rules. And now, I mean, of course, I'm used to it, but yeah.
Well, and can you think of a reason why that would be beneficial? Not to put you on the spot there.
Well, I guess I don't know, does it to bring it,
Because as the mayor, they are the ones that are overseeing the meeting. And they're the ones that grant permission to speak. They're the ones that give you the floor. So even if you're trying to
Oh,
talk
okay.
to somebody else, you're always talking to the mayor because they are the ones that are gonna direct
oh,
you to be
okay,
able to
yeah.
have the floor to speak. And it also saves from that, a lot of that back and forth debate. Because everything is going through the chair.
So technically, a council member would ask a direct question to the manager. The manager would turn to the mayor and say, through the mayor, and the mayor would say, manager. And
Yeah.
which is allowing that space to open up. I know, it's very formal, but there's a reason for it.
I was under the impression that the most strict interpretation of Robert's Rules of Orders said that everyone who's talking is talking to the chair.
Yep.
Only to the chair.
Yep.
Never to anyone else.
Yep.
And that's where the through the chair comes.
Guess I did not know that.
Mhm.
So this is the end of the meeting section. Is there any questions or comments?
I guess we better make sure the next.
Doesn't do that, you're gonna be like, what's going on here?
All righty.
Now I actually know the reason behind that.
So this kind of end of this section, I didn't realize this is local government specialist one. I didn't. But this is my direct information. So if you ever have an issue or you ever want to give me a call, this is my information. And if you use, I believe if you use the little dinosaur, it will direct you to the DCRA website. And that is the end of that. Let's take a 5-minute break. Come back. 5, 6, 7, 8-minute break. Come back at 4:15. We're going to go over best practices.
I might have a lot of questions on this.
Everyone does. Alrighty, Councilmember Kennedy and Rachel, are you guys back with us?
I'm here.
Okay. Councilmember Kennedy?
I am here.
All right, then let's get started. So I'm going to say this, best practices can be very fun. Let's go with very fun. There's sarcasm. So again, we have the interview. DCRA now has something called the Best Practices Toolkit, and we'll kind of review that a little bit later on. But this is one of the PowerPoints that is provided with the toolkit. So this is going to give you the origin of best practices, how scoring is done, and additional resources that are out there. So you've already gone over DCRA. This right here, this will show the different offices that DCRA has. We have offices across the state: Fairbanks, Kotzebue, Nome, Bethel, Dillingham, Anchorage, and Juneau. So if for some reason you can't reach the Anchorage office, you can call any of our other offices. Like Kotzebue is open right now. We don't have someone there. We're currently trying to get someone in Kotzebue and someone into our Dillingham offices. So if anyone's interested. Okay. Now we've gone over all that. Okay. Oh, no, stop that. There we go. Play from current slide. So, operations and maintenance best practices for rural utilities. In 1996, the Federal State Safe Drinking Water Act Amendment was created. Section 119 requires state drinking water primacy program of non-viable community and non-transient non-community water systems, develop a strategy to address the capacity of all existing water systems. Capacity is the capability required of a public water system to achieve and maintain compliance with drinking water regulations, including three main elements: technical, managerial, and financial. Alaska's strategy assesses small community systems capacity using the best practices score criteria. The best practices, or BP scoring criteria, reflects the capacity element discussed in the 1996 Safe Drinking Water Act. Technical, for each section, there are multiple different sections. For the technical section, there is the operator certification, preventative maintenance plan, drinking water program compliance. For the managerial, there is the utility management training, and then the meetings of the governing body. And then the financial section, which is the budget, revenue, workers' compensation, insurance, and then the payroll liabilities. So, RUBA's role.
It has, but it's, the audio has been very bad.
Okay, there we go. So what we do is we conduct best practice scoring of the managerial and financial elements. Now we help utilities improve capacity on providing providing one-on-one and small group training and assistance, creating training materials and templates, and then we also host utility management classes. So when we refer to SDS, which is Sanitation Deficiency System, this is used by some federal and state funding programs to rank construction programs as part of an overall score. The VSW, which is the Village Safe Water Capital Improvement Project, CIP, your score determines competitiveness. Minimum BP score is required to qualify for funding. Can anyone off the top of their head, and this does not involve Heidi, Rachel, or Melody, what is the minimum BP score required to qualify for funding?
60 something.
60, between 60 and 63. Today, what was discussed about getting funding from the CIP for the wastewater project. You cannot, if your BP score is under the 63 or 60, it is harder to get the capital improvement project. Is that better wording for the CIP? Yeah, it is harder. So this kind of, no, go back. This slide kind of outlays like what the VSW is and THC, and then there are little subjects of right here, all of this. So health impact is 0 to 30 points. This is the SDS scoring system. Project efficiency level 0 to 25, adequate previous service 0 to 4, capital cost -9 to 9 points. BP score, you can only get up to 16 points in it on the SDS scoring system. Eight, local tribal priority is 0 to 16, and then other considerations can go from -15 to 0. A total points is 108. Again, BP scores only take up 16 points, but it is still very important because if you have low scores, they won't look at you. They won't take consideration. Minimum BP scores dependent upon the type of project being requested, and then the current service level of the community. Technical capacity, you can get up to 45 points possible. This is scored by DEC. Managerial capacity, which is scored by RUBA, is 10 points possible. And then the financial capacity, which is 45 points possible, is again scored by RUBA. So DEC only handles the technical side, whereas in RUBA, we handle the managerial and financial side. So the utility management trainings, if we're looking at, if you go to your packets, we have provided your fall 2020 score. We're under managerial right now. So the utility management training. Why is this important to be managing water and wastewater utilities? The RUBA courses focus specifically on the management of rural Alaska water and wastewater systems. Our courses address topics important to managing utilities in sustainable long-term ways. The biggest word there is sustainable. A utility should be able to be sustainable on its own. The courses provide utility staff with skills needed to succeed at providing communities with clean and safe water and wastewater. So these are, you have the two sections of responsibility for management. Utility has completed a DCR approved utility management course or other utility management training course within the last 5 years. Now, something that is not mentioned here is if you have someone attend, if they leave within that 5-year period, your points drop to 0. So on your managerial section where you guys have 5 points, it says Jan attended financial management for rural utility training in 2021. Now you guys should be set 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 until 2026, unless Jan leaves. If Jan leaves, your points drop to 0 unless you get someone into those courses. So we do provide training. Our training is free, available both online and in person. We do offer most of them in Anchorage, but every once in a while we do some in our regional offices. They take about 32 scholarship available. what you would have to do is you would have to attend every single day of training, and then at the end for the next cycle to increase it. These are different courses that we offer. We do offer more that are more offered frequently. There we go. The ones that we offer more frequently are elected officials, clerks, financial management, and QuickBooks, just because those are the ones that are in highest demand. Now, as elected officials, if you are new and you want to learn more in depth, we do suggest the elected officials course. So, meetings of the governing body. Why is this important to managing water and wastewater utilities? The governing body makes the ultimate decision for your utility, such as how to fund it and how to ensure its sustainability. The governing body must be meeting regularly in order to make decisions about the utility. The governing body must be receiving adequate information about the utility to make proper informed decisions. Now, to receive the full 5 points, the utility owner's governing body meets routinely consistent with the local ordinance, bylaws, requirements, and you receive a current report from the operator. So every meeting you should be receiving a report from a water/wastewater report from your operator. If you look at your fall score, you received the full 5 points. So to maintain it, you must continue to meet according to your bylaws. We do have some communities where their ordinance or their bylaws say, oh, we only meet once a year. And so as long as they meet that once a year, they're able to meet that. Because you can't get a lot of information and you can't do a lot if you're only meeting once a year. Now, the meetings of the governing body for maximum 5 points, as I said, governing body, the city council, borough assembly, tribal council, or community association board meeting takes place in accordance with the local ordinance bylaws, often once per month. Meetings must be provided for a majority of the last 6 months. So the next cycle ends December 31st. We require for the upcoming spring 2023 cycle, which will come out in March, we require meeting minutes from July, August, September, October, November, and do we do June?
Yeah.
Yeah, June, July, August, September, October, and November.
Some can get us information in December as well.
Yeah.
We will be able to, as long as we don't have the second meeting in December, then that would be
Yeah.
next time.
Minutes must be reviewed and approved by the governing body. The minutes must indicate that a written or oral report was received from the operator or contracted utility manager, such as ARUC, labeled water operator report. Minutes must indicate that financial reports are received and reviewed. This will come into play in the next section. The financial report, which you guys received at the last meeting, there has to be a financial report because all of these sections tie together. If one section fails, it can bring down the score of another section. So this is kind of the gist of this is kind of a model of a template. We do have some communities who likes to use, we do have some communities that like to use their templates, but you guys already have an amazing template that is currently being used. Change. It happens. Did it change on your screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is just a template. All right, do we still have everyone?
I lost a lot of that last 2 or 3 minutes audio.
Okay. So what we just did is we just had, sorry. We just went over kind of a template of the meeting
Yeah,
minutes, but you guys already have an amazing meeting minutes.
okay.
Heidi, you can see where those checks are. That's our perspective. That's.
And we go through and we highlight everything that we need. So this kind of shows like a water report. This is just a written one. We do accept verbal water reports as well. Last month's. All right. The next subject, yes, John.
I'm sorry, I forgot to remove my hand.
Okay. The next subject that we're going to be covering is one of the more difficult ones. It is the budget section. Now, why is this important to managing water and wastewater utilities? It is the responsibility of the governing body to make decisions regarding how a utility will be funded, how it will spend its money, and how it will receive revenue. The governing body must communicate this fiscal plan to utility staff in a clear way. A budget is the best way to do it. A budget shows utility staff how they may spend and receive money. And a budget allows the governing body to make long-term decisions about utility management and operations, such as how much to charge for services, how much to pay staff, and how and when to fund maintenance needs, amongst others. So, to receive the full 15 points, the utility owner and the utility, I'm going to reiterate that the utility owner and the utility have each adopted a realistic budget, and the budget amendments are adopted as needed. Accurate monthly financial reports are prepared and submitted to the governing body. Now, what this section doesn't really add in there is the budget must be balanced for both the overall budget and the water and wastewater section. Now, I say that right now because we're going to get into why your scores kind of look the way that they do right now and ways that we can fix it and get it up and going. Because currently for your fall scores, you guys have 0, and it is not because you didn't adopt a budget, it's because there is a section in your budget that was not balanced. Now, when you guys hear the word balanced, what that means is the income is either equal to or exceeds the expenses. So for maximum 15 points, the budget must be adopted by the governing body. Budget must be balanced. Revenue is equal to or exceeds the expenses. Budget must be realistic. Consider past budgets, current situations, business plans, etc. Income and expenses must be detailed. Utility enterprise shows separate from other functions of the owner. If subsidies are dependent upon, they must be identified and documented and tracked in monthly financial reports. Budget must be tracked via monthly financial reports. Monthly financial reports must be in cash basis and compare budget to actual year to date. Governing body meets. Governing body meeting minutes must show the reports are received and reviewed. Budget amendments as needed. Okay, we do have a city budget manual, but this is kind of what we are looking at when it comes to the water and sewer. As you can see, the income right here, for the actual budget outweighs this income here, and then if needed, budget amendments are taken care of. We already went through this. All right. We do have a budget model. This is just a model ordinance, but you guys already have one. So we do provide these to communities who don't really have an ordinance. Reference to the budget. Public hearing, adoption by majority of the governing body. Now we get into the revenue section. Why is it important to be managing water and wastewater utilities? Okay. A utility must collect sufficient revenue to cover all expenses. Expenses necessary for a utility to operate include, but are not limited to, heating, fuel, electricity, chemicals, water testing, salaries, parts, equipment, and much more. If sufficient revenue is not collected, consequences can include staff not being paid, insufficient funds for day-to-day operation, insufficient funds for repair and replacement. Monthly financial reports are necessary to track revenue throughout the budget year. I'm about to sneeze. Or not. Okay.
This is
One.
right.
Thank you. All right. So to get the full 20 points, the utility is collecting revenue sufficient to cover the utility's operating expenses and to contribute to a repair and replacement account. You have to show in your budget and in the financial reports that you are making that contribution to a repair and replacement account and showing that the utility is collecting enough revenue to be sufficient to cover all of the expenses. Now, if the utility is collecting revenue sufficient to just cover the expenses, but they're not bringing in monthly a repair and replacement account, adding into that, you get 15. If the utility has a fee schedule and a collection policy that is being followed, but it's not showing that it's actually sufficient enough to cover everything, you get 5 points. And then if there's no fee structure or collection policy, it's automatic 0. If you guys look, you guys have a 5. And again, we will talk about why at the end. So we've covered this. For maximum 20 points, monthly financial reports must show all revenues and expenses, budget versus actual, year to date, cash basis, show sufficient revenue either from user fees or explicitly identified subsidiaries or a combination of both. Contributions made to a repair and replacement account. For maximum support, as I said, repair and replacement, an R&R fund are set aside for all parts which need to be replaced every 1 to 7 years. There is a line item budget allocation and track on the monthly financial reports. At least quarterly contributions to the annual budget allocation to R&R. The utility may already have sufficient funds designated to meet the project R&R costs. If so, provide evidence. So if you have enough in your account that it is sufficient to provide that in your monthly report. If you guys need to dip into it, document that. But we just want to see that it is marked on your reports. And this is kind of what we're saying, like, this is a repair and replacement. When I first saw your guys' budget, I didn't understand that you guys were contributing to an R&R fund, which thankfully Rachel had pointed out to me. All revenue, as we said. As you see, you have, here's the budget, here's the year to date up here. This is the repair and replacement fund. As you can see, the expenses, the income is equal to or greater than the expenses, and they're positive 16,000. Now we go into workers' compensation insurance. Why is this important? If a worker is injured or killed on the job and the utility does not have workers' compensation insurance, the utility is responsible for all costs, which can bankrupt the utility. Current workers' compensation insurance is required by both state and federal law. Fines and penalties can be assessed for noncompliance, and noncompliance can result in projects being delayed, halted, and taken out of consideration. For workman's compensation, you can get a total of 5 points. If for some reason there is a break in insurance, you can only get up to 2 points, and if that's within the past 2 years. So even if you have a break in insurance for just 1 month, you cannot get 5 points again for another 2 years after that. For a maximum of 5 points, current workers' compensation insurance, continuous worker comp insurance for the last 2 years. As evidenced by one or more of the following, we are able to access the Department of Labor's Workforce Development Database from insurance carriers, from the utility if no other evidence is available, must provide proof of current coverage, must provide proof of current payment. Also, if you are a part of AMLJIA, they do let us know who's in compliance and if there's ever been a break in coverage. Payroll liability compliance. And as you can see for your workman's comp insurance, you guys have 5. You guys are good to go. Okay. Why is this important? Payroll tax compliance is required by both federal and state law. It is the right thing to do for your employees. Non-compliance results in very expensive fines and penalties, and it can lead to liens and seizure of your property. Now, this is current with all their taxes, you can get 5 points. If a utility owes back taxes but has signed a payment agreement, is current on that agreement, and is up to date with all their tax obligations, you can get 2 points. However, if a utility is not taxes owed, you get 0 points. Now, your community, you did get 0 points, but that is because, and this, no one, I believe this was the previous person before Jan, they did not file a quarterly report. And so that has hurt you. We have been talking with Jan. Jan is getting you guys back up, got that report put in, and then we're trying to figure out when we get the next compliancy, is there anything missing from that? Federal payroll liability compliance, e-filing. We are pushing a lot more for e-filing just because the IRS they are backed up and backed up and backed up, especially with all of this mail coming in. It is easier if you do e-filing. It's not required, but it is far more reliable. And there you go, click on that. If you have any questions, you can call the Ruba QuickBooks Helpline Support. I believe they are open Tuesday through Thursday. IRS support for nonprofit and governmental entities. If IRS is not able to help, and we're saying if the IRS is not able to help, this is kind of your last go-to, contact the Taxpayer Advocate Service Assistance Form 911. So the state payroll liability compliance, the state of Alaska employment security contribution taxes. Again, through the QuickBooks. This, once it catches up, we do have a template for a payroll liability compliance, which is an A821, which we fill out and then we send to the communities and you guys sign and get it back to us, which allows us to get information from the IRS. So you want to file all your reports in a timely and accurate manner, make all payments in a timely and accurate manner. So scoring is conducted 2 times per year. There is July, and in that situation, all documents are due to your LGS by June 30th. And then there's January, documents due to your LGS December 31st. So it's a little weird how we word this, because the one in July is called the fall, because this normally comes out in September. Then the one in January is called the spring because it's normally posted by March. So the next scoring cycle that we are in is the one in March. It is the spring 2023 cycle. Now, if you're going to have, out of the two scores, which do you think is the most important?
Which two scores?
Out of the fall and the spring score,
Oh,
which one do you think is the most important?
The spring score.
no.
The spring score, correct. Most of the regulatory people who are looking at these scores, they are going to look, the big score that they're going to look at is the spring score. We do ask that you please submit documents monthly in order to catch issues and improve practices as you go, rather than waiting when it's too late. If we can catch something early, we want to take care of that situation early. Your local government specialist will assist you. So this is currently all of our local government specialists. We have had a couple who have departed, and we have some brand new ones coming in. But as you can see, there is Miss Melody, the supervisor, one of the supervisors. And then I'm the blonde right here. I am no longer blonde. But if you ever want to know, you can use this QR code. We have a really, really nice interactive map that is color coded that shows who the local government specialists are and which area and best ways to contact them. Model document templates. This is where comes in our toolkit. We'll look at that just because we are running a little bit short on time. But if you ever have any issues, you can check out our toolkit. We do have like templates on budgets, model documents, all that fun stuff for communities that have not really had a chance to like create their own. The Aruba QuickBooks hotline, they do offer classes. They do come and visit, and it is very intensive. Okay, pictures, there we go. All right, so the Aruba utility management trainings, travel scholarships available, as I mentioned. The next training that's coming up, I'm actually the lead. So I'm going to be training along with my fellow LGSs, Eli and Yura. And then we also have a special coming in. His name is Roy. He knows all things languages. I don't know his title. Do you know Roy's title?
He's a local government specialist. He just
Okay.
specializes in the state's native languages.
For my birthday, because I was at work on my birthday, he actually came in and he's saying to me, "Happy birthday, Yubik." And I'd never heard it before. So Aruba does provide, as you can see, on-site visits and trainings. We are traveling now that COVID has passed. We are traveling a lot more. So if you guys ever want us to come, just let us know and we will be here. And then if you ever need resources, we have the resource desk, and then this is also a way to find out your local government specialist. So this is the end of the presentation, but now what we want to get into is kind of why you guys got the score that you did. So in the agenda packet, as I mentioned earlier, when you guys were talking about in the meeting, the wastewater project and getting the funding for that, they mentioned the CIP grant. They're not going to really, how would you describe this? If their score's too low.
We take it on a case-by-case basis.
I was gonna say, just say it, our score is too low.
Well, it's not too low compared to other communities. You're doing pretty well, but in this situation, it is too low.
Yeah.
Because they take those with higher scores, those with scores above 60, they look at those communities more. So.
Well, and we just need to work on improving these scores.
Mhm.
I mean, I know everybody's working really hard on trying to improve them, but we're just not there yet. Because some of them, seems like we just can't. Like the water operator, for instance, you know, that's a pretty tough one for us.
But you guys did make good headway when you passed the AMOS earlier this year. If you remember when you passed the alternative method of system supervision that placed Todd Cook.
Yeah, but did we
as
ever?
Yeah, that's passed. That's why you have 7, because you have at least one primary operator.
Oh, okay, that's, yeah, I wondered about that.
So now it's getting multiple operators. There are ways, and I think Trisha's gonna touch base on that.
So in the managerial section, you guys are doing good. You have the full 10 points that you can get. Now, in our section, what we can help with is the budget, the revenue, and the payroll liability. Now, Jan is already doing an amazing job getting the payroll liability up to date. She's been on the phone with the IRS. She got that quarterly report turned in that was missing. Now we're just waiting to kind of see what the IRS comes back with to let us know, do you guys jump up to the 5 points? Now with that 5 points, you guys jump up to 57. The biggest section, that is the 2 big sections that are hurting you, are the budget and the revenue. Now, there was some confusion with the budget, because if you look at your adopted budget, let me stop sharing my screen and then let's share my screen again. Let's just share my screen. Damn it, share. So if we look at your budget, we're going to look at 2023, because this is what we're going to be talking about. And we understand that there is a deficit. Yeah. So let's go down to your general funds. Now, here is the question: is your revenue, is it equal to or does it exceed your expenditures? So this would be page
4.
Page 4. Yes. Your revenue exceeds your expenditures. We do take into consideration that you guys have a deficit. We do. But is this budget balanced? Yes. But this is where we get into the tricky part. What else has to be balanced? Heidi?
Our special revenue funds,
Yes. So.
our utilities.
Mhm.
Financial one.
So let's go to your water special revenue, which starts on page 7. And we want to look at page 8 of the agenda packet. If you look at your expenses, your revenue, and your expenditures, is this balanced? John, does this look balanced?
No, it does not.
No, it does not. Can we give you any points for this?
No.
No. And that's the thing that kind of trips people up, is it has to be the overall, and then it has to be the water and wastewater that have to be balanced. So let's check out the wastewater. Oh, by the way, you guys are adding to a repair and replacement fund. It's this little section right here. Oh, come on, scroll down. Scroll down, scroll down. Okay, this 500 right here. Thank you, Rachel, for telling me that. And now I also want to point out your actual, not your budgets, but your actual, you come out pretty positive in the water section. This is not the section that I'm really worried about because it's not balanced, which means we can't give you points, but I mean, you've proven in the past, you're doing pretty well with it. The section that comes into worry is the wastewater special revenue. So if we go down, which is on page 11. Come on, scroll down. Scroll down. Does the revenue compared to the expenditure, is this balanced?
Nope.
Nope, no, it is not. Again, we cannot give full points unless those are taken care of. And with the upcoming score being one of the most important, there needs to be something done to fix this. So Monday, when we got in, we sat down with Jan and discussed what can be done. Because I mean, your general funds, they are balanced. They are. But what are ways that we can work with getting your wastewater and your water section kind of fixed and up and going? So what we have attached is financial reports. And this is what we kind of need to see on page 13. But we also need to see, which you guys received on Monday, is on page 15. This is a financial report for November on cash basis. Now, if we look here, are you balanced in sewer? Like, have you brought in more than what you've spent? And I can't put this up on the screen, I'm sorry. It's in your packet on page 15. Oh, wait, I have the packet. Give me just a second, I'm pulling out the packets. No, I don't want to say that. Load. Sorry, the internet doesn't like me. There we go. What? Zoom. There's screen. So let me get on the page. Ah. All right. So what we have pulled up now, this is your revenue report. So you have your water and sewer right here. This is how much has been budgeted. This is how much has been spent. And then this is how much has been brought in. So if we come over to the water section, is that balanced? Have you brought in more revenue than you've spent?
No.
Nope. For the month of November, nope. But what about sewer? Are you balanced in the month of November for sewer?
Yes.
Yes, yes, we are. Yes, you are. So is there a way to balance this? So what we did was, in talking with Jan and talking with Rachel and in talking with Heidi, we sat down and we discussed, is there a way to transfer funds into your water and your wastewater section? Is there a way to get this updated so that you can be positive? Now, council members, do you guys think that there is a way that this can become positive?
It looks like there is to me.
There is. Now, just bouncing off ideas, what is your idea, Judge? Wow.
Move water funds to, or sewer funds to the water account.
But that's gonna hurt your water, that's gonna hurt your sewer.
Maybe go back to the budget slide.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So let's go up to the water section. What do you guys see is happening right here? Are you guys gaining more money in?
Yes.
Yes. What is happening with that, with those extra funds?
Good question for Jan.
Well, this is something that you need to know about as council members.
No, I'm just.
I know.
So they're your fund balance, right? So a fund balance, I know this can be confusing. Fund balance is the funds that are available in that account, and not actual, but the funds that are in that account from the conception of the account. So it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, and it goes down. But when your revenue meets your expenses and there's an overage, that goes into your fund balance. When it's under, that depletes your fund balance. As you can see, it shows $150,555 from last year. This year, because the budget isn't balanced, it'll actually pull from that fund balance, and that'll be estimated $127,308. However, you do have that $150,555 fund balance that has accumulated and is available right now in the budget.
So what you guys can do, and what we are suggesting, is in your budget, show that you're going to pull from the fund balance, and then show what the overall balance is going to be. You can show that once you pulled those funds, your budget will become balanced. So if we say, like, up here, transfer from fund balanced, or in the revenue section, come up to the revenue section. That's expenses.
No, that was revenue.
That was revenue?
Plus.
Okay. I'm going crazy. There we go. Up here, put in transfer from fund balance so that it increases your revenue, that it's either equal to or exceeds your expenses. Your budget suddenly becomes balanced. So if your budget now becomes balanced, are we able to give you points?
Yes, but I have a couple questions.
Yes.
So does that require a resolution to get them to change that, or can they just do it on their own authority? The finance officer and the city manager.
Melody, that would require. That's right.
It's going to require a non-code budget appropriation amendment.
Okay.
So what you would be doing is you would be amending I know that you normally do your amendments in January, but because of the situation of Sildovia, you want to do it before December 31st. Now, it is possible if you hold the public meetings that you normally would have. So the later one in November, the later one in December.
Actually, I don't think we would have to hold the later one in December.
Okay.
We could either hold a special meeting if needed, if nobody was available the November 28th, but we do have it set on the council schedule that the November 28th meeting would be held if there's business needed. And I think if everybody's available and this is the desire of the council, this is a good reason to hold that meeting. And it would be to introduce a budget amendment that would show this transfer, if that's council's desire. And then at the December 14th meeting, it would be a public hearing. And that would, if council passed it, that would pass the budget amendment for DCRA, be able to show them the balanced budget.
So if I'm gonna go with when you guys are able to do this, your score will go up. It can't jump up right to 15, unfortunately, because we are so far into the year and you've had that budget for so long, but we can get you up to 10. Now, if you're looking at your score of 52, if your payroll compliance comes back and it's perfect, that jumps up to 57, and then add 10 points onto that, you're at 67. Just those points right there, you guys are now back in a very good area. So again, our suggestion, and I know as council members, you guys normally do this in January. We highly suggest you do this and get this taken care of for December before December 31st. Because if you guys don't, and you rely everything on what we have right now, you're gonna get a zero for budget, and your score is gonna be low for revenue.
Sounds like a good plan to me.
And this is what we and staff have been working on, bouncing these ideas off of each other. And again, I'm going to reiterate this multiple times before I leave. You guys have amazing staff because they contacted us as soon as they saw their score, and they're like, what can we do? And so we came down here with a game plan of figuring out how can we help you and how can we get you guys back up? Because again, the spring score is the most important.
One question.
Yes.
So of course, our fund balance would be reduced by that amount. But watching this over time, we could possibly, I don't know, is it necessary to keep a positive fund balance like that? Of that much, or is a smaller amount okay, or should we be building the fund balance again?
Councilmember Kennedy, so the fund balance, if you look at the general fund, you'll see that it is in the negative, and that is your deficit right there. You don't want to be in a deficit in the negative, right? You want to have a positive fund balance. You guys did discuss having a 2-month revenue target for the general fund, and that's something we can discuss for the other special revenue funds as well. But certainly there should be discussion on targets and goals for what you do want to see in a fund balance for these situations, or any types of emergencies, anything that could come up and have the revenue not be able to sustain the expenses. I am not a finance officer, but in just looking at this, the way my mind interprets it is, yes, it's going to pull from the fund balance, but you're already pulling from the fund balance. If Trisha scrolls down just a little bit, you can see that it's coming out at the end of the year anyways, because your fund balance is going to be lower because of that negative balance.
Okay.
So really, it's just a shift of numbers to recognize that you're using that fund balance in the budget, and then it balances the budget. Either way, that fund balance with these estimations is going to be drawn down.
Right, but the only comment I got is that that's exactly why these exercises are so good for all of us. So I like it.
So sometimes, I'm gonna say this, sometimes council will push back when staff suggests like, hey, we need to do this sooner. That's why we wanted to go over this so that the council gets on board with staff and this get taken care of before December 31st.
I just wish there was more of us here tonight.
Well, this is why it's recorded.
It is, and I will make a point to share it with the council, John, and just reiterate that this meeting is available on YouTube with that link.
And point out that this particular section has had good audio and so
Yes.
there are sections where it's completely unintelligible.
Oh,
No fun, which just means I have to come back to it again. If you guys ever have a question about this, just give me a call and I will explain it. But with this change, we can show that it is getting to be positive, that it is coming out balanced and the utility is being sustainable.
Well, that's really exciting to me.
And again, it's not going to be a huge change overnight. You're not jumping from 0 to 15, but we can get your guys' scores back up and in a very positive way. I can't help with the technical side, I'm sorry.
And all the regulatory and funding agencies in this whole water and sewer world will be very happy.
Council members, I don't know if you know this. Your community, because of your wastewater situation, has been designated, not by us, as a high priority. We pay attention to the high priority communities because we want to make sure that and I believe it is because of the wastewater, what's going on there. And since they're watching you like a hawk, just because you are a high priority and they see this improvement, their attention is going to turn to you and you're going to be more likely to get more funding.
That's what's so exciting to me, is that maybe we can make this work for the community.
So that is all I have for tonight on our end.
right. So.
Okay. Do we have any comments from the public?
I want ice cream.
So comments of the audience.
Right.
Public.
Pretty
Yeah.
sure that there is no public.
I'm not seeing any public at this time. Councilmember.
Does John have his hand raised for
Yes, he
something?
does.
I'll go ahead and speak. I had forgot to remove my request, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed today's session, and I appreciate the extra efforts by everyone involved. And there was one other class there that you mentioned that you have that had to do with council training. That wasn't new council training. I think that would be beneficial to a lot of us as well.
Let me pull up the information right now.
Are you currently emailing Heidi or Rachel?
Yes.
Yeah, when
Yes.
that training announcements become available. Yeah.
Yeah, I sent out, are you on our blast, our listserv?
I think so. I do receive notices of, so here's the thing, I receive notices for the clerk's training.
Okay.
I don't know if I receive it for the elected officials. I'll have to double check. But if you could just send it to me again, I can forward it on.
Okay, because I sent it to you, although at that time, no. Because what I do is I'm actually in charge, if the council members want to get involved in this too. DCRA, the RUBA program, we actually have something called our listserv. So you can sign up with any information for best practices, any upcoming training, anything that has to do with bulk fuel, anything that has to do with grants And then the last one is public notices. If you want to sign up and get those, just let me know. I'll email the information to Heidi. That way you guys can get signed up if you haven't. I do believe you are signed up though. Because I think I was excited whenever I see one of my communities.
Okay.
The next elected official management training. The next elected official management training is going to actually be held online in March. Registration normally opens 6 weeks before, so I'll let you know. But if anyone's also interested in attending a class that's in person, we have one in February for financial management, and then one in April for organizational management. So let me screen share just so you guys can see. There we go. These are all of our upcoming courses. To get to this, whoops, not that. Home. This is our main webpage. So if you want to find out which courses that we offer and when we're going to be offering them, you go to resources and then scroll down to training. And here's really resources training. Here's everything for upcoming courses, DCR training, and RUBA training specifically. If you're interested in looking at the toolkit, you would click on local government specialist. And then we have the utility management best practice toolkit right here, which kind of gives an overview of everything, different templates, important documents, scoring criteria, checklist if you're interested in it. This is also the interactive map I was telling you about. So these are all the communities. There we go. These are all the communities that we assist in the state of Alaska.
Oh, wow.
If you're looking for myself, I am pink. You can come up here. So if we type in Seldovia, Alaska, and you will see you are pink. This is my name and this is my number. But if you want to see like who has Wasilla, you can just type in Wasilla. Some of these, be careful, because if you type in Houston, it will most likely take you to Texas.
Houston.
But Wasilla, yes, I know. Wasilla is,
Your colleague.
yep, my colleague, Lydia Milkey. But if you ever want to see like who is the LGS for which area, you can just come to this map and click on it and you are good to go. It gives you our numbers and it is updated very, very frequently.
Very colorful.
Well, we want people to be able to find out who their LGS is. And it's always really nice to have this right here. Which I'm just going to say, I think they chose pink because one of my favorite colors is pink and I have a pink keyboard and a pink mouse. So I was very happy when I saw this. But as you can see, my communities reach up to Houston and then all the way down the chain.
All right.
All right, that is all that I have.
Any other comments from anyone? There was nobody in the public.
There's nobody in the public.
Okay. Okay, then. I guess we're adjourned for the regular meeting is next, or it's gonna be Monday, December 12th. And we're adjourned. Oh, thank you guys very much.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
you.
It was very,
It's very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
very enlightening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.